Sly Cooper is a legendary franchise. I've documented all 4 of his games and my full thoughts on them here on this channel, including touching on the original trilogy twice each. Sly and the gang have been invaluable in seeing this channel grow as much as it has. Of course, I couldn't have done it without you, the viewer, either, and so as a thank you for 3,000 subscribers, I've made the following video. In this project, I'm going to be ranking every single mission from the entire Sly Cooper series from worst to best. Keep in mind, this is my subjective opinion and it will certainly differ from yours. As I've said countless times, one of my favorite things about having a YouTube channel is getting to talk to people in the comments about the games I'm playing. So naturally, I would love to hear your favorite and most dreaded Sly Cooper missions in the comments below. Your top 5 and bottom 5 would be really interesting to hear. Honestly, I'd love this video to become a benchmark here on the channel, a place where we can each share our thoughts on the series we love. And if you're new here, I heavily encourage you to subscribe and check out more of my work. It's always appreciated when you take the time to do that. As a final note before we start, if you are interested in supporting the channel further, you can become a member via the join button for only 99 cents a month. And you can also leave a super thanks or donate on Buy Me a Coffee if that's more your style. Links to all of that can be found in the description and the pinned comment. And without further ado, thank you so much for helping the channel reach this milestone, and let's get started. Naturally then, our first question is, what could possibly be the worst mission in the entire series? Well, for me, there's no doubt it's Shell-Shocked Heart from Sly 4. Ironically, this mission is actually pretty fun to play through. You get to do a stalking section as Sly where you follow the Black Knight's path until Bentley takes over. From there, you get these cool platforming segments that intermingle his bombs and darts as part of the course. And there's also 2 hacking segments and they're both pretty good. However, this mission is still a disaster to me because of how grossly it misunderstands the characters, especially how they were at the end of Sly 3. Honor Among Thieves had a perfect ending to the trilogy, and bringing these characters back was always a risk because any new adventure meant undoing that picture-perfect ending. I was okay with taking that risk, but as we know now, Thieves in Time does not live up to the original trilogy, at least for most fans. And the big reason for that, at least for me, is because of how it mishandles the characters, making them into caricatures of themselves and destroying what came before. Bentley is my favorite character, so to see his perfect ending get ruined just so that they could go for shock value feels incredibly stupid and short-sighted, especially because everyone can see the plot twist with Penelope coming miles and miles away. If you're going to commit to undoing his happily ever after, at the very least, you could make it convincing. For ruining my favorite character's relationship for the sake of shock alone, this mission gets dead last. Going hand in hand with that would be Operation Mousetrap, where Bentley and Penelope officially break up. The characters are just as cringe in this, especially at the end when Sly and Bentley are joking around.
Hey, guys!
We could use some help over here!
Sounds like they need some help getting out of there. Know anyone that could swing that?
Well, I do know this one guy, but he's probably busy, so I guess I'll have to do it.
It's good to have you back, Bentley.
What the hell does that even mean? Are they referencing a character that I'm overlooking? I have no idea, but it certainly isn't funny. The breakup dialogue between Bentley and Penelope is a little bit better, but it just feels like they undid something great for the sake of stunning the player, ineffectively at that. At least the boss fight is cool, well, when you control Sly. The mech fight itself is super stiff. Overall, this mission sucks too. Sly 4 commits foul character assassination, and it's felt most in these 2 missions. Alright, with the character assassination missions out of the way, we come to my 3rd most hated level in the series, the Claw from Sly 3. The Claw is such a boring, repetitive mission that has nothing to do with the series' stealth and platforming mechanics. It is a vehicle mission that doesn't bring anything exciting to the table. It doesn't justify taking away time from the other core mechanics by being fun on its own. You sit there, wait while Bentley explains the mechanics for 2 minutes until guards finally start to run over. Then you just repeat the same inputs over and over and over again until you move on to the next oil field. And then Bentley berates you for not moving fast enough, even though Murray is the one lagging behind. Then you have to balance dropping rocks to be launched while disposing of guards, and it's here where the claw's finicky nature comes out. And then finally, you assume something interesting is about to happen after sitting stagnant in this claw for so long, but no, you don't get to platform over to collect the green goo, the mission is just over. Not even the funny banter between Sly and Murray at the outset can save this mission from being a bottom feeder. Any longtime fans of this channel shouldn't be surprised to see Tank Showdown appearing this low on the list. When I played the emulated version of Sly-tly and made a video on it that you should check out after this one, I really tried to play the game in a different way. I wanted to be more expressive while playing, using gadgets to change up my playstyle, and trying to be more open-minded about missions that I didn't like. It worked for the most part, but this was one job I just could not find the fun in. A year later, and I still can't. The tank is clunky, it's hard to move, shooting isn't satisfying, and it feels like wasted potential. Murray operating a tank sounds so cool on paper. How did they manage to make it this unexciting?
Okay, guys, I'm in a tank.
Alright, last spot in the bottom 5, and then we can finally get out of the basement. That brings us to Burning Rubber from Sly 1. You know, the mission where you have to smash up all the computers before the lava slugs get to them. More than any other job in the entire series, this one feels like RNG on if I'm going to win or not. I never change up my strategy, I just drive to computers as fast as I can. Sometimes I win easily, other times I get destroyed. There's no rhyme or reason to it at all, it just demands you keep trying until you get it right. The van controls are janky, it isn't fun, and it's really easy to lose without feeling like you did anything wrong. What more do I need to say? This stage, as well as many others in Clockwork's world, feel like they were thrown in just to pad out the runtime. For my money, it's the worst mission in Sly 1. Alright, with the bottom 5 out of the way, we've now entered F tier. Just barely escaping the basement, we have Piranha Lake from Sly 1. As you can certainly tell by now, some vehicle missions represent the very worst of the series. Don't get me wrong, there are some good ones, but Piranha Lake is another dud. Sly 1 has a bit of a wonkiness to it, especially on this movable turret. Having to zoom around the map, gathering piranhas to light tiki torches, seems so odd for a game about platforming and stealth. And why is there a timer? It's such an artificial way of creating difficulty, and I hate it. It's a departure from the series' gameplay strengths without being interesting on its own. It's not enjoyable enough to excuse the departure from standard platforming. At least it isn't slow like the claw and the tank, at least that's something. But think about what we lost. A real level where Sly has to platform over a piranha-infested lake would have been so much cooler than this. Into the top 200 now. Can't believe we already made it this far, but oh god, this level sucks too. So many of Clockwork's stages are just incredibly mid. A hazardous path feels like it's included only to justify the findings we got from the Panda King section of the Thievius Raccoonus. It's like they ran out of cool new platforming ideas for Sly and just gave us some dogshit van upgrades that Murray immediately destroys at the end of this level. This stage feels so trial and error and was the bane of my existence as a kid. I couldn't stand it, those damn hawks moved way too fast for my young hands. As an adult, it's not as bad, but in my childhood days, this arguably could have been the worst level in the entire series. It's only higher nowadays because I'm usually able to beat this mission on a first try. However, my hatred of it as a kid has lingered into my adult years. Another entry, and it's another mission I don't like, with A Deadly Bite from Sly-tly. First of all, I think Sly Cooper missions are at their best when you can pick the order you get to play them in, which isn't the case here. Second, this job takes place right after Sly suffers from a major injury, so it makes sense that he's unable to do anything right now, but I still don't like the friction that it creates. We're in the finale of Honor Among Thieves at this point. I've had enough time with some of the gimmicks, I just want to play as the main crew to wrap things up. A Deadly Bite confirms you're going to have to do more with the extended gang members first, and I'm just not a fan. This one is my least favorite because of those narrative reasons, but also because the traps can literally spawn underneath you. How are you supposed to dodge that? I just don't like this job, but it isn't as actively awful as the previous 7. This next mission was certainly a contender for the worst mission in the entire series, but it's bailed out a little bit. It's Deja Vu all over again, the finale of Sly 4. It's helped out by an awesome sequence where you play as all the ancestors in quick succession, stringing together their special abilities to help them all retrieve their canes. It's cool. But after that, it's the biggest disgrace of the entire series. A quick time event final boss fight that sees Sly get tricked and lost in time, unable to be recovered. Without a follow-up DLC or a Sly 5, this is now the canonical ending to Sly's character. He goes from perfect, happy life at the end of Sly 3 to being lost without a trace, his friends unable to pinpoint when or where he is. They're all depressed as they can't get any leads on where he is, and it's a total bummer. You go from happy ending to everyone's miserable. Well done, Sanzaru. It's a complete and utter failure and a huge blemish on the series. If not for the ancestor sequence, this mission would have been dead last. Bomb-totin' roosters. Need I say more?
Roosters.
Rounding out our bottom 10, we have Down Home Cooking from Sly 1. I just don't see the vision. I guess it's a little bit charming and goofy, but outside of that, what's the point of this stage? It's a test of the player's ability to navigate tight spaces quickly, I guess, but it's so trial and error. The roosters can trap you so easily, and one false swipe of your cane forces a complete restart. Usually I fail this mission at least once, but I did it on this playthrough for some strange reason. I do like the opening dialogue, it's quirky, but actually playing the level kinda sucks. I hate it, so let's move on. There was a time when I thought Hazard Room was the worst mission in the Sly Cooper series, but now that I've taken time to map it all out, I can't say it's the most deplorable. And that might be the best compliment that I can give to this mandated tutorial. I have no idea why Sucker Punch thought this was necessary 3 games in, or why they wouldn't have made it optional for returning veterans, but here we are. At least it's a short road bump, as they don't force you to complete all the levels, only 2 of them at the start of every new playthrough. It's a small road bump, but still annoying nonetheless. Eye in the Sky from Sly 4 is up next, and yes, I am being a little bit petty with this one because I think they did Sir Galeth kinda dirty. You're telling me his legendary move is the Catapult Crash. He can simply jump a little higher off of launch points than Sly. What? It's genuinely such a weak move compared to the legendary Rail Slide and the Ninja Spire Jump. This mission feels like something Sly could have accomplished, as if Galeth was not necessary at all. Not to mention, it's the only thing you do in this job. You climb 3 small towers. That's it. Yeah, I'm good, I've seen enough of that. At number 194, we have A Desperate Race from Thievius Raccoonus. This level is a complete failure. I don't know how they managed to mess it up this much. Despite it being the second of 2 races in the game, it's somehow easier than the first. Like, way easier. This track adds ice, which in theory should make things harder, but it's so easy to avoid while the enemy racers get caught up in it immediately. Abusing even just a few nitro is enough to win the race. I don't think I've failed this race even once as an adult, while the other one still manages to challenge me from time to time. The driving itself is fine, there just isn't any difficulty to it at all. It's a mission where your eyes can glaze over and you'll be just fine. Next is Murray's Big Gamble, the first of 2 escort missions in Thievius Raccoonus. This one serves as the bottom feeder between the 2 though, because it contains more annoying choke points than the other. The ability to squeeze shots past Murray and obstacles to hit guards seems overly tuned in this mission, at least on some playthroughs. And the fake out where they can open a garage just to reveal toxic crates that will kill Murray if shot creates trial and error in a mission type you already don't want to be playing. For some strange reason, Sly Cooper games love turret sections, despite them being antithetical to being a sneaky thief. Some fare better than others, but this one is a dud. Unable to claw its way out of the bottom 15, we have Blind Date from Thieves in Time. This mission sounds cool on paper, playing as Tennessee and having to rescue Carmelita through a crazy obstacle course of TNT, rail slides, and flames. But it's a little clunky in execution and pacing. Sometimes you have to wait before you can rail slide to the next section, and other times you can go right away. If you don't go right away, you fail. That inconsistency doesn't feel like it's your fault. This mission also reintroduces Carmelita into the story, and it feels half-baked. It's just hard to get an idea on how she feels about Sly. She's obviously mad at him, but there's no hesitation in trying to rescue him. I guess it's complicated feelings, love, betrayal, etc., but still. But more than anything, by this point in the story, we've done a jailbreak section, and now we're gonna go right back into another. It doesn't feel like progress, it feels like poor pacing. Battle the Chopper from Sly 2 is up next, and it's a big stinker. The controls are so stiff on the turret that actually landing a shot on the chopper feels like pure luck rather than skill expression. The missiles it fires back at you don't feel like obstacles to overcome, but instead distractions from the main goal. Not much to say about this job, it's ruined mostly because of how it controls. Otherwise, it wouldn't be that awful. At spot 190, we have Cane Swipe from Thieves in Time. It features the Black Knight, so it has to pay what I'll call the Penelope tax, bumping it down my rankings. Outside of that, the mission isn't anything special anyway. It combines 2 recon photos and a few stealth takedowns before finally finishing with a hacking minigame. Thank goodness it's one of the 2 good ones in Sly 4, or else this job might have fell further down. This job just lacks substance, and it's one of the shortest in the game, making it pretty easy to forget. Our last entry of F tier belongs to Battle of the High Seas from Sly-tly. You'll hear me say this a few times throughout this video, but I don't like the sailing sections of episode 5. It controls fine, there's nothing wrong with how it plays, it's just the fact that we're doing this in a Sly Cooper game. I think they went too far off the rails with this section, and I always wish we had more regular missions in Bloodbath Bay rather than journeying out to sea. Although, admittedly, one job is pretty good. More on that later, but for now, riding around finding pirate ships to fight just isn't my cup of tea, so let's move on. Alright, with that we reach D tier, which means there's no more jobs that I actively dislike doing. Blow the Dam is at spot 188, a few steps up from Battle the Chopper. While I still think the turret controls very stiffly, this job is at least a little bit better because the dam isn't a moving target. It's much easier to focus your fire on it, which feels good. It also means getting the mission over a lot faster. It's sad to say it that way, but it's absolutely the truth. Spike Sushi from Thieves in Time comes in next, and it may just be the biggest example of wasted potential of any mission in the series. It's a decent level conceptually, using Ryoichi to scale the caverns to find poisonous plant seeds. Sadly though, the game only asks you to find 2 of them. One is in the first room, and the other sees you solving 1 puzzle to reach it. This mission is over incredibly fast. It should have had a longer platforming gauntlet, or more poison seeds to recover. Adding those would jettison it up the list, but for the state it's in now, it's underbaked. You might be wondering how the King of the Hill jumped over the last few jobs when I already stated that I didn't like its counterpart, Murray's Big Gamble, and its turret setup. Well, I still don't love the setup, but I will admit I do find the final sequence of this job to be pretty fun. The alarm is blaring, guards are pouring in everywhere, and it's up to you to save Murray. And not the Murray, just Murray. He's so timid in Sly 1 that protecting him here just feels right. That's about it, but hey, at least this stage fares better than its lesser version. What can I say? It's easier. Getting these jobs over quickly so that I can get back to playing as Sly does provide a boost. Grand Key Larceny from Sly 4 is the mission where I feel the game starts to go off the tracks. It's the job where I started to realize Sly 4 was not going to live up to the original trilogy. In this job, you have to compete in 3 events to win keys a la Operation Canada Games. However, this one is much worse. Murray's combat section would be cool if his punches had some good visual or audio feedback. Instead, it feels like you're hitting someone with a wet pool noodle. The boss fight feels broken too since you have no proper way to dodge his attacks. Rolling on the ball as Sly sucks as well. It's easy to mess up during this choke point. And Carmelita's shooting section isn't awful, but she's only been around for 3 missions, and this is already the 3rd dude who finds her insanely attractive.
But if you lose, you gotta give me a kiss. What do you say?
They over-sexualized her character, and now every man in the series seems to go goo goo gaga over her, and I just can't stand it. They absolutely butchered her character, from tough but honest cop to eye candy. A real shame. Thermal Ride comes in at slot 184, and it isn't awful, it's just not interesting. Paragliding on my terms is a lot of fun, but when missions force me to do it, they often feel trial and error. This one can certainly be that way. It's over in a matter of minutes, with half the time spent just gliding between uprises. And if you try to hurry the mission, you often come up short and force yourself to do a complete restart. I guess the eagles attacking you is cool, and it is neat to be so far away from the main hub island for a few minutes, but outside of that, this job isn't anything special. Down the line from Honor Among Thieves is up next. It's the mission where we have to save Murray from being blown up by racing our RC car to his location. This mission wouldn't be so low if not for how the RC car handles. It's pretty decent, but any slight bump makes you feel like you're losing all the speed and momentum you've built up. Not to mention, the shooting locks onto objects in front of you, and sometimes it makes it feel like when you go to shoot a rock, you end up shooting an explosive barrel. That causes damage, and if you make that mistake too many times, you have to restart. It's just not as fine-tuned as it needs to be to make this mission more fun. At entry 182, I'm placing Satellite Sabotage. This is the first mission you do outside of the tutorial in Band of Thieves, and I'd forgive you if you completely forgot it existed. It gets some points as it's a nice way of introducing the returning players to the different gameplay loop here in the sequel versus Sly 1. However, on subsequent runs, the messages about hitting the L3 button to ping a waypoint rain hollow as hell. And the job itself isn't really that fun, it's just a way to get the player moving around the hub world and adjusting to this different setup. It's not bad in its own right, but it just isn't memorable, and it's a mission I get through as quickly as possible so that I can move on to a much better one. Going Up from Thieves in Time climbs in next, and speaking of climbing, this mission is all about that. However, we play as Bob, and I don't like Bob, so this mission finds itself pretty low. And that's the beauty of having a subjective list like this. I don't like Bob, so this mission gets bumped. In all seriousness, I don't like this mission because of the auto-fails. Mess up one thing and you automatically get a game over screen. Sly 4 does this a lot, and I can't stand it. However, this job isn't a complete bottom feeder for 2 reasons. 1, it sets up the minor character arc that Murray will go on, and 2, it does have a cool fake out. They show you a job complete screen, and then the mission keeps going. It's a cool little twist, I'll give them that. Back to my trend of burying vehicle missions way down on the list, we reach number 180 with A Ghastly Voyage from Sly 1. The twin stick controls feel a lot better here than they did in Piranha Lake, but that's not really saying much. This is the first of 2 movable turret levels in Sly 1, and this one's slightly worse for me because of how annoying the ghost towers are to deal with. They generate ghosts so fast that it can be difficult to land repeated strikes on the towers to take them out. This is best seen in the final sequence of the level where you have to take out 3. Oddly enough, the setup means the challenge gets easier the farther you progress into it. 2 towers is easier to deal with than 3. I don't know, I don't get it, and I don't really like this level. Well, we might as well knock them out back to back. Rapid Fire Assault is up next, slightly edging out A Ghastly Voyage because it avoids the ghost tower problem. I also like that you're free to move around from the very start of the stage. Being stuck on the boat at the beginning of the previous level is suffocating. This still isn't a great stage, but at least it gives a little bit more of a power rush than the last one. And it gets bonus points for the Panda King radioing in and telling his guards to just kill you on sight and nothing more. Straight to the point, I can respect that. A temporary truce is honestly a mission I forget about a lot when thinking about Clockwork's levels in Thievius Raccoonus. At least the gameplay part of it anyway, and some days that's a good thing. It's an okay level, but I can't help but to feel the camera is too zoomed in at times. There's moments where it's hard to see where the lava slugs are coming from. However, I am a sucker for Sly and Carmelita romance, so seeing the first signs of affection between the two does enough to jettison this stage up the list.
I see your point. All right. Until Clockwork and his evil schemes are destroyed, I suggest we work together.
Together at last.
Really, it carries the whole level for me. If I was factoring in only the Sly collection when considering these rankings, then A Deadly Dance would not be this high up. If you haven't noticed, that's the version I'm using to record gameplay for this video. In it, the music isn't properly synchronized with the button prompts during this fight. That means you will lose if you follow along with the beat. I had to mute the game to finish this job on this playthrough. It's absolutely heinous that this was never fixed. And even with that problem set aside in the original game, Miss Ruby's boss fight is just kinda poor, easily the worst of the first game. The random rhythm game feels like an odd inclusion, certainly one that doesn't land for me. The only thing keeping this stage above water is the fact that we get another section of the Thievius Raccoonus for completing it. Just squeaking past that awful dance sequence, we have Disguise Bridge from Sly-tly at spot 176. This mission is alright, I guess, but it doesn't really do much to make itself stand out in the crowd. You essentially repeat the same task a handful of times, stealth kill a few flashlight guards, and then clean up pools of smaller enemies. Running back and forth past Bentley does feel cool as you work in tandem, and the explosion at the end isn't bad either, but the gameplay itself is just repetitive. Sticking within Band of Thieves, and another downer mission for me would be Water Bug Run.
Let me get this straight. We're gonna bug Rajan's office with a bug?
I think this is a cool idea on paper, but in execution it's not great. You're supposed to make pit stops at a bunch of water pools to prevent the bug from alerting nearby guards. But in truth, you can just sprint to the ending point using some climbing to shortcut the intended path. The bug will chirp, but you're faster than the guards anyway. As a result, the job ends very quickly. At least being in Rajan's office is kinda cool though. His safe is even in here for this chapter, which feels appropriate. Operation Moon Crash from Sly-tly is up next. I find it to be one of the weakest operations in the entire series, as it's relatively short, containing only 4 gameplay segments. The Guru's part is alright, as is Bentley's, but bringing back the claw is a nightmare scenario for me personally. And then climbing up Carmelita is a cool idea, but it's pretty simple and short as well.
Carmelita, you've got a little something on your face.
It's not nice to make fun of a girl's looks.
Maybe I should smash you!
Now, that's not nice.
I see what they were trying to do by pulling Carmelita into the mess and having Sly be the one to rescue her yet again, trying to set up the romance more, but I just don't like playing through it. I don't feel like all the work we did throughout the episode is reflected in this finale, and that's usually what the operations do best. Continuing on, we have more vehicles. A lot of Sly's vehicle missions rank either very highly or pretty low for me. Treasure in the Depths comes in at entry 173, leaving it pretty low on the list. It gets a few bonus points for being the series' first time using the twin-stick shooter mechanics, but that's about all it has going for it. It's enough to push it up slightly higher on the list, but not much. Honestly, the job is pretty challenging considering its early placement in Sly 1. Even on this run, it took me 3 attempts to complete it, and I've played the crap out of this game. Some of those crabs get away in just a few steps. It's not the worst vehicle mission, but it's nothing special either. And here we go with another vehicle mission, although I'm being a little harsh on this one. It's Up in Smoke from Sly 4. The RC chopper is only used one time in the entire game, and it's wasted potential. It controls pretty decently, but its segment is over in just a few moments and never returns again. Hell, this mission even has a decent hacking minigame at the end, which is cool. This mission is by no means near rock bottom, but I wish we could have gotten a longer RC chopper section if they were only going to give us one. Hard Target from Thieves in Time is another one of those missions that's easy to forget. It takes place between the Penelope plot twist mission and the episode's finale, and with both of those jobs having cutscenes and whatnot, this one gets lost in the shuffle. You have to do some platforming as Galeth, and then do a shooting gallery as Sly.
So how is it for making bombs?
It's alright, and honestly, it could probably be higher on the list. I think I'm just super biased against this whole episode. At spot 170, it's Bump Charge Jump from Sly-tly. This is an okay RC car section, but it's another mission that doesn't feel like it belongs at the end of the trilogy. It's easy for your car to topple over on some of the jumps, and the car just isn't as fun to control without the turret. However, I do like that there's no time pressure, unlike in Down the Line, which makes this slightly better. And I will admit, taking out a few drones in a row can be satisfying. Back to Thieves in Time with Starving Hippo in the next spot. Mechanically, this mission isn't anything fantastic. You just run around and capture penguins while playing as Murray. However, it isn't scraping the bottom of the barrel on this list because I do like its narrative purpose. This job comes directly after Going Up, where Murray is cast aside so that Bob can do the job instead. It leaves him feeling useless. Then, the very next time he's called upon, it's to track down some simple-minded birds, nothing challenging at all. However, Bentley is able to cheer him up by the mission's end, and it goes a long way in mentally preparing Murray for his eventual boss fight against the Grizz. You might be thinking there's been a few questionable entries so far, but this might be the first real surprise of the list. I'm not sure, you can let me know, but I'm going with Turf War from Sly-tly at slot 168. I remember liking this mission more as a kid because of the novelty of playing as Carmelita for the first time, at least in an open hub world like this. However, on subsequent runs, this job doesn't impress me all that much. I find the shooting reticle to be disorienting, as swinging around the camera in all directions messes with my head. I mean, it's fine, it's not that bad, I just don't care for it. It's a novelty, and it's not a bad one, it just wears off after a few playthroughs.
Good work, man. For mercenaries, you fought with honor and distinction. I'm proud of you.
At least how Bentley draws this plan up is amusing. He really has gotten quite devious. At number 167, we have At the Dog Track from Sly 1. I'm not a big fan of racing in this series, but it's alright. This mission fares way better than its counterpart from the Panda King's world. That's because despite this being the first job, it's actually more challenging than a desperate race. Like, how do you screw that up? Shouldn't this one be easier considering it has to be done first? Anyway, the level itself is fine. It always seems to be a bit more trial and error, but hey, at least the hot dog has one of the developers' faces on it. That's pretty cool, I guess. I love the paraglider. It feels like such a natural extension of Sly's capabilities, but somehow that doesn't equate to joy for Spice in the Sky from Sly 2. This mission is alright, don't get me wrong, but I hate that when you leap from the plane, if you aren't immediately holding the R1 button, you can't get enough altitude to collect the necessary amount of gas. It's an instant fail. It's an interesting mission conceptually, but outside of the 6 slow motion animations of Sly leaping from the train as an explosion surrounds him, I just don't think it's that great. Repeating the same task 3 times in a row doesn't work that well when there's no variation. The Dark Current from Honor Among Thieves gets a few style points simply because it contains a decent boss fight against Dr. M. He's a great villain, certainly the most fleshed out in the series, so more time confronting him is appreciated. However, this is a Dimitri level, so it really can't be that high up on the list. These are alright, but they're by no means my favorite gimmick in Sly 3. And just like I said with A Deadly Bite, I just want to get back to playing as the original 3 by this point in the game. However, I'll always enjoy hearing Dimitri's game when talking to Penelope.
How about a kiss from Monsieur Magnificento? My lips are warm like bread from the oven.
He genuinely cracks me up with this lingo. At spot 164, it's Tiger Tail from Thieves in Time. This is a decent little RC car mission where we follow El Jefe to gather information. The car doesn't control quite as tightly as it did in Sly-tly, but it's not awful. The costume and boost mode are welcome additions that flesh out the system more. I wish shooting guards wasn't an auto-fail, but it is what it is. As far as Sly Cooper missions go, this one is relatively inoffensive, but nothing spectacular either. Up next, we have Charge TNT Run from Band of Thieves. This job is okay, but only because I love the uniqueness of Arpeggio's hub world. His blimp is one of the best hubs in the entire series. The gameplay itself isn't my favorite though. Sly is our most nimble and agile character, and anytime that ability gets nerfed, it just doesn't feel good. Having to tiptoe around the map without leaving the barrel is a challenge, but it doesn't play to Sly's strengths as a character. Of all the blow up the engine jobs, this one is by far my least favorite. That brings us to Getting Stronger from Sly 4. While I do think it's a little bit charming that they went for the whole Rocky training montage idea, I can't help but to feel it's out of place for the Sly series. At the same time, while I like the idea of giving Murray some extended time to talk, it's unfortunately an over-exaggerated version of his Sly 2 and Sly 3 persona. I don't love that they make Murray into the big dumb idiot who eats a lot. Just because Bentley is a genius never meant that Murray had to act like a goofball. Sly 2 and 3 seem to understand this, but Sly 4 doesn't follow suit. Meanwhile, the minigames themselves are okay, but the balancing act as well as having to hit the flying targets is a bit finicky. Despite being a mission that stands out in this fourth entry, it's not really for the right reasons. Here we have Deep Sea Danger from Sly 3.
Daddy-o, how about you take your pimp self down beneath the H2O and get nasty with the scuba? Yo, with bling!
This is the first time we play as Dimitri in the game, and it's not terrible, but it's not particularly fun either. I do like the speed you can achieve darting around underwater, but by this point in the game, it feels like the developers dipped their toes into too many buckets of water. They threw so many gameplay styles at the wall, and some stuck while others didn't. This one finds itself somewhere in the middle, attached to the wall, but slowly sliding down it. It's an alright mission, but it can't compare with the better gimmicks of the series, let alone the main gameplay loop. At slot 160, I'm going with a tearful reunion from Honor Among Thieves.
No! No! Either help me or get out of my way! I'm bringing her home!
While I love the sentiment Murray shows for his van and the determination he has to rescue it, the gameplay of this mission irks me. We get another underwhelming RC chopper section, followed up by a turret minigame that's easy to get overwhelmed in. I don't find this job to be all that satisfying outside of the great character work, so let's move on. You know, unlike many of the vehicles so far, I actually enjoyed the RC chopper from Sly 2. That's what helps get RC Bombing Run up to slot 159 on my rankings. It's a fine introduction to the chopper, but it's over so quickly that there's no chance I could put it any higher on this list. On this playthrough, I beat the entire job in under 90 seconds, including the Banaki-com conversation between Sly and Bentley. At least it's fun while it lasts. Our next entry doesn't last very long either. It's Kidnap the General from Sly 2. This is an alright mission as well, but it's one that requires the player to inject the fun into it. It's super easy to just run back to the safe house and finish the mission in just a minute or two. But if you take the time to use the General's invulnerability, you can enhance the experience. He's a fun projectile, but even still, the mission is just ho-hum. Nothing too special, but at least it doesn't drag things out if you just want to get it over quickly. At spot 157, I'm going to plop down Water Pump Destruction, Murray's debut mission. And honest to goodness, that's the only thing that gets it this high on the list. Being able to play as all three characters was such a massive slam dunk in the transition between Sly 1 and 2. Their different gameplay styles is what allowed the team at Sucker Punch to evolve the Sly formula into what it became, and I'll be forever grateful for that. However, Murray's debut mission is pretty boring. It's a tutorial, which is fine, but it's so bare bones on repeat playthroughs. It's one of those missions where unskippable Banaki-com conversations hurt the most. Up next is Duty Calls from Thieves in Time. This is a good but rather short mission where you follow the Grizz and listen in on his conversation. It's one of those classic missions where you simply tail a target before things wrap up. What I like about this mission is that it gives you plenty of ninja spire jumps and vines to climb on so that you feel like you're truly stealthing around. However, it drops in comparison to other missions like it because you auto-fail if anyone sees you, even if the Grizz is far away. I wish he ran to your location like he did in the earlier games, giving you a chance to correct your mistake instead of just losing outright. Carmelita to the Rescue from Honor Among Thieves is up next. This is another mission that's just alright. We're sort of in that forgettable territory, aren't we? Missions that aren't bad, but they certainly don't do much to create lasting memories. This is one such job, as saving Sly from Dr. M's monster is cool, but it's incredibly short. Usually I just hammer the boss and ignore all the mob enemies until it's over, and then Carmelita is dismissed until the finale. It's over incredibly fast, and then the focus shifts back to the gang. I kind of forget this mission even exists until I boot up episode 6. Speaking of forgettable, out of every job in the entire Sly series, wall bombing might be the most forgettable. Well, at least the part where you play as the RC Chopper. It's over incredibly fast, which is a bummer because I do like controlling the chopper. However, what isn't forgettable about this mission is the ending, busting Sly out of jail. It's a memorable sequence given the string of jobs you pulled off to reach this moment, and it ends with one of the most iconic lines in the entire series.
Well, you know the old saying, if you can't count on a friend to bust you out of jail, what kind of a friend are they?
Truer words were never said, wizard.
That alone propels it up my rankings. Bear Cub Kidnapping from Sly 2 comes in next, and it certainly underwhelms despite its interesting concept. Murray has to kidnap bear cubs and use their mother's protective instinct to destroy the barrier surrounding a cart. The inclusion of dynamic wildlife does add a nice touch to this hub world, but out of the game's 3 bear missions, this one certainly isn't as memorable. Some forced combat between Murray and some bears would have been a nice addition to this job. Without that element, it doesn't have much substance, and it's over very quickly. Back to Sly-tly with Danger in the Skies at spot 152. This is a tale of two halves for me. I really don't like the opening part where you have to shoot down the satellites and then the bats. The bats especially can kill you simply by flying in off screen, which is a pain when it forces a restart. However, I love the boss fight against Dr. M's whalefly. Seriously, some of the creature designs in this episode are the best in the series. Plus, the revelations that come from the discussion between Sly and Dr. M are awesome. It really helps cement this game's theme of legacy.
Headstrong, just like your father.
You don't know anything about me or my father.
Really? Well, who let you in on the secret of this place, eh? Was it my old pal McSweeney, perhaps?
Still, I can't rate this job too high. Every time I start episode 6 in this game, I just want to get to this point, wrapping up Danger in the Skies, because then the truly great missions start. It kind of hurts to have Bentley Comes Through this low on the list, given it's the birth mission of one of my favorite Sly Cooper mechanics, hacking. This stage feels like a prototype that Sly 2 would build on tremendously. Here in its debut though, it is pretty simple and rudimentary, and the stage is over very fast. I love the hacking minigame, and that's enough to get it high up on the list, but I just can't justify putting it up any further. It certainly belongs in D tier. At slot 150, I'm going with Dominate the Dance Floor from Sly 2. This mission is more style than substance. We get to see a side of Sly we're not used to, his charisma. Sure, he's always charming, but it's often shown in quick exchanges between cops and robbers, not in these public settings as he hides in plain sight. He has a little bit of that James Bond character dynamic, and it comes through in this mission. Outside of that though, this job isn't much to write home about, it's just a rhythm minigame after all. For the first time though, I did make a connection between this job and the first game. Sly says it takes two to tango when Carmelita walks over, and that's the name of a mission from the first game, and it's one that Sly and Carmelita are both featured in. It might just be a coincidence though. Jailhouse Blues from Sly 4 is up next. This mission commits itself to Sly's jailbird costume, which does get a lot of usage both in its projectile and roller forms, shuffling back and forth between Sly's normal form and his costume to get the job done. I appreciate the dedication to the idea, but the jailhouse costume controls so slowly that it's hard not to feel like the pace is slowing to a crawl. That, paired up with the one-hit KO pits found throughout this mission, make it a real drag. Why have a health bar if the player is going to auto-fail by getting burnt by fire or falling into a pit? Also, I usually like it when the villains radio in during a mission, but Toothpick does not shut up during this job, it's just too much. Silence the Alarms is up next, and I'll give it credit, it's better than Water Pump Destruction. It doesn't slow you down with as many tutorials, it takes place in the playground of a hub world, and incorporates more combat for Murray to deal with. This mission is simple, but it's a great showcase of Murray's primary mechanics in Sly 2, beating up guards and throwing things. And it does this without restricting the player nearly as much as Water Pump Destruction. That's enough for it to leapfrog up the rankings a small amount. Look, I may be too harsh by putting Big Truck at entry 147, but to be fair, I just don't like many of the vehicle missions across the series outside of RC-related ones. With that being said, Big Truck isn't awful. It controls well enough and finds an interesting way to increase the challenge by removing the water puddle that cools off your tires completely with no added pressure. It's fine, but what allows this job to move up the list is that the Sly platforming sections are intermingled. Alternating between these two gameplay styles is interesting, and I wish other vehicle missions did something similar.
Your guru wants it purified.
Awesome! This is the biggest truck I've ever gotten to drive!
Plus, watching the miners get decimated by the scorpions is always a fun time. Next up, we have Moonlight Rendezvous from Band of Thieves. This mission climbed up near the top of D rank because it serves as a great introduction to Constable Neela, a really strong character, at least in the first half of the game. Sure, she goes off the rails, but Neela is such a wild card throughout this second entry. Up until she becomes Clockla, I love her role in the story. Anyway, this mission itself is just alright. Following behind her is fine. They do it a few more times throughout the game, but it's never anything special mechanically. As we wrap up D tier, it's back to Sly-tly with Get a Job at slot 145. This is a basic photography mission that's not bad, but it lacks the espionage and sneaky elements that other reconnaissance missions have. It does get some decent usage out of the disguises, but the combination of these two mechanics isn't enough to elevate this given the weaker narrative setup. At least it gets us close to General Tsao so we can see how much of an arrogant loser he actually is. It's a fine mission, but nothing great. Kicking off C tier, we have Operation Wedding Crasher from Honor Among Thieves, and to be honest, it only gets into this category because of its title as an operation. There isn't a lot I like about this mission. The RC car section is fine, but the part where you blow up the security nodes is much more enjoyable than the first half. Then, stopping the vases from falling over, as well as the grapple camp section, are tedious and just not that enjoyable.
So, I broke your temple, and I'll break your face for messing with the Cooper gang!
And then there's the boss fight against the dragon. It's cool that they tried to work platforming into a Sly Cooper boss fight, but this one comes up kinda short. I would have much rather had a rematch against Tsao, but it is what it is. Speaking of Tsao, and sticking it to him is really the best thing about this otherwise meh mission. Lightning Action is up next, and I think it's an okay level from Sly 2. Nothing fantastic, but what it does well is getting the player to platform a lot. The Contessa's hub worlds in chapters 4 and 5 are the hardest to navigate in my opinion. Tons of vertical routes that take strung together jump and hit the circle button moves to navigate. Lightning action takes advantage of this by forcing the player to uncover the pathways to reach the objective markers. That discovery is fun, but once you reach a tower, there isn't much to it. Just hit the circle button 3 times, it's kinda boring. With that, we come to Operation Jurassic Thievery from Sly 4. This mission starts strong with fun sections featuring Bentley, Bob, and Sly. There's a clever use of Bentley's darts, there's a paragliding part as Sly, and a full-length climbing section as Bob. It's decent stuff that boosts this job up the ranks, but what stops it dead in its tracks is the boss fight against the Grizz, which sucks.
Tired of you Cooper chumps, the Paradox, everybody. All I ever really wanted to do is skate. That's right. Okay.
I like that you fight as Murray, but damn, this one genuinely feels broken, at least during these sections. You have a short period of time to knock all the ice cubes in, but Grizz launches attacks back at you. There's a delay between punching and jumping, and it's just long enough that you often get hit even when you feel like you should have dodged. Not to mention, the hitbox on the icicles that fall are atrocious. If you don't come into one of these sections at full health or close to it, you will lose and force a restart of that section. It is miserable, so despite the strong start, I can't put this job any higher. Back to Sly 2 now for Spice Grinder Destruction. It brings back the barrel walking mechanic from Sly 1, but it's a little worse here because of having to use multiple barrels. It feels like you're backtracking as you complete the stage, which isn't ideal. Still, I love the mission's narrative impact, using it to drive Rajan out of hiding and doing the world a favor by ending his production of spice. Also, it's one of those jobs that contains the random hidden briefcases full of coins, and I'm a sucker for these. Even after playing the game tons of times, these weird little rooms still feel very mysterious to me. Heavy Metal Meltdown from Thieves in Time is a decent little mission where Bentley and Salim team up. First, you have to plant devices all around Miss Decibel's office before then activating them as Bentley using his darts. It loses some points though because I think the pacing is a little weird at times, like having to blow up 4 separate platforms as Bentley and waiting for the elephant to turn around to search for you before you're safe to detonate another. Plus, if you fail, the scorpion nest will respawn without you knowing it, and they'll interrupt you trying to detonate the bombs, and it's like being poked when you're really trying to concentrate. It's annoying. It's by no means a bad mission, but it certainly could be improved a little bit. Up next is Recon the Sawmill from Sly 2. This is an alright reconnaissance mission, but it takes place in one of my least favorite hub worlds in Band of Thieves. I just don't find the Sawmill to be that interesting, especially after the last 3 hub worlds before this were all bangers. Still, heading inside and hearing Jean Bison's plan is interesting. He's one of my favorite Claw Gang members, so seeing him in action is always a treat. Plus, I always thought the Northern Lights battery charge always looked so sick, much better than the battery itself. Any Sly Cooper recon mission is alright in my book. Back to Thieves in Time now for Under Arrest. This is an alright mission where you go around sabotaging Toothpick's town by destroying his propaganda posters, stealing his snacks, and taking down his banner. It's all in an effort to get Sly thrown into jail on purpose, an interesting concept no doubt. However, this mission is elevated because of the great level design of this hub world. It's fun to explore, especially with the train tracks you can rail slide on. More or less, this job is designed to get you exploring this awesome hub world, one of the better ones across the series. Unleash the Guru from Sly 3 finds its way onto the list at spot 137.
Hail, O Guru of the Stone!
It's a fun mission that sees you playing as Murray's mentor for the first time. I think what's nice about the Guru's gameplay is that it comes early enough in the title that it doesn't feel like you're missing out on time that could have been spent playing as one of the 3 main characters. It's a fun mission and then you get right back to playing as the main ensemble. As Sly 3 goes on, more and more missions take you away from playing as the main 3, and I do think the gameplay is less focused as a result. Still, this mission is decent, and taking control of the guards that have been hunting us down for 3 straight games is a nice little power trip. Ghost capture is a cool mission conceptually, but I don't think it plays out quite that well. We're supposed to go around and snap photos of ghosts so that we can scare Neela into ordering attack planes. It does get the player platforming around one of the best maps in Sly-tly, but that's about it. A lot of time is wasted waiting around for the ethereal ghost to fly out of environmental objects as you try to predict the point that they will emerge from. And unlike most missions involving picture taking, you don't feel like you're an undetected thief moving throughout a bad guy's lair. I do like the map design of this hub world, which is what allows this mission to move this high up. It's not bad, I'll give it that. Having Operation Canada Games only as high as slot 135 would have surprised me if you had told me its spot before I started my rankings. But honestly, I can't put it higher. I'll say this. It's a very polarizing mission for me personally because I absolutely dread the beginning of it, but I adore the fight against John Bisson and the subsequent escape. Not to mention the narrative consequence for the Cooper Gang's failure is immense, setting up an awesome final episode. However, that beginning half just drags things down a lot. None of the Lumberjack games are satisfying to play, and even worse is having to force Bisson to fail. Pulling him off the ice wall is the bane of my existence. It just feels like random chance if I'll be successful or not. He moves so quickly. Considering half of the mission playtime is spent on stuff I don't like, I just can't put it up any higher, despite its awesome conclusion.
That's it! Time I showed you just how stupid we turtles really are.
A grave undertaking from Sly 1 appears next, and this mission ends up being a little below average for me. The glue bottles are a pain to find, as Sucker Punch tucked many of them into weird little spots, and they blend right in with the greenness of the environment. On top of that, it includes Miss Ruby's annoying enemies, the worst in the game in my opinion. However, I'll give some credit because I do find the level centerpiece to be cool. Entering through the gaping maw of a crocodile and finding some ritual altar full of ghosts plays into the creepiness of the stage. Navigating this area is easily the highlight of the level, and everything else around it is mediocre at best. Tarball is an okay mission mechanically, but it certainly gets a boost because of the dialogue between Bentley and Murray.
What happened to the Murray? The guy who'd get into a fist fight with 10 thugs wearing nothing but a towel. The guy who used to punch first and not bother asking questions later. Where's that guy? Where's my old friend?
I'm sorry, Bentley. I tried to save you, but I just wasn't strong enough.
You can feel the awkwardness between them from the distance intermingled into their relationship with the passing of time. It shows Murray's continued guilt, but also his loyalty for helping the gang, even though he's no longer a member. Perhaps getting involved like this again is what later gives him the courage to act against Octavio. The job itself is just alright though. The ball form gives Murray something new to do in this game, which is great, but it still takes a backseat to his best feature, combat prowess. These next two jobs are like the epitome of mid in the Sly Cooper series. They are by no means bad jobs, there's even some good elements to them, but they just don't do anything for my soul. The first is laser redirection from Band of Thieves. I enjoy navigating the inside of the sawmill factory, but after we head outside to redirect the laser, it just becomes platforming on a map that isn't that fun to explore. Again, it's not bad like a lot of missions I've already talked about, but it just doesn't excite me. I don't even get any happiness or sadness out of this mission. It just kind of exists. And maybe part of that apathy is because the mission right after it plays out almost identically. Speaking of that mission, it's Bear Cave bugging from the same episode. Perhaps this and laser redirection would be higher up on the list if they weren't missions played back to back from one another. In both of them, you head inside a location, you complete a task, and then you go back outside and roam around the hub world, placing down objects on points of interest. They play out extremely similarly, and I just don't love that. This one gets the higher spot though because it at least includes the bears. I mean, you gotta admit, pickpocketing a bear's mouth, yeah, that's kinda sick. Edging that out just barely is High Class Heist from Sly 1. This level has a cool centerpiece with the laser eyes that track your location until you disarm them. It's easy to navigate, but at least it looks cool. However, I was never a fan of the lily pad section and the surrounding searchlights. The circular pattern always made me feel like I wasn't making any progress. Plus, to open up the vault, you have to backtrack. It kinda makes this whole job feel a little bit like a slog. It's got some cool ideas, but it feels too short and too repetitive to push higher up. Back to slide 2 for our next entry, and we have Elephant Rampage. This is another fine job that isn't fantastic, but it's far from being bad. I love the segment where we crawl underneath the elephant's platform to spook them. I think it's a brilliant way of taking advantage of the crawling mechanic. And having to frantically race around the map, getting back on rooftops and keeping up with the elephants is pretty fun. They move just fast enough for it to be a challenge. It's a good test of how well you can navigate the map. But it does lose a few points for being finicky. You sometimes fall off the elephant before getting the gem, and that sucks. Honestly, Eavesdrop on Contessa isn't a very special mission mechanically, but it's so hard not to associate this particular job with one of the best meta moments in the game. Bentley is truly all alone as episode 4 begins, and the hub world they've built is so incredibly imposing, which heightens that solitude. This is meant to be the ultimate challenge for Bentley, to face his fears of being out in the field. Nothing like having your friends get arrested to get you motivated. This mission is a turning point in Bentley's character, and since he's my favorite character, it gets a big boost from that. Again, the mission itself isn't anything special, but simply seeing Bentley sitting in the safe house all alone with the giant prison looming over him in the background, yeah, that's an iconic shot, and it helps jettison this mission up my list. At number 127, we have Follow Dimitri from Sly-tly. This is one of those jobs that, on a first playthrough, is really awesome. You feel like a total sleuth if you manage to avoid Dimitri's gaze without failing. However, on subsequent runs, you realize how easy it is to just stick to the rooftops and avoid his gaze. His path never changes, so every playthrough will be the same. Multiple routes would have made this job a lot more interesting, but as it is, it loses a few spots in my rankings simply from how dull it can become. It isn't a ton of fun just inching across the rooftops, waiting for the lounge lizard to reach his destination. It's a mission that's good on the first run, but it doesn't have much staying power. It's back to Thieves in Time for this next one as we come to Something's Fishy. This is a decent level that combines the skills of Bentley and Murray. We first get an introduction to one of the coolest additions in the series in Sly 4 with the alternate hacking minigame. This one plays like a side-scrolling arcade shooter, and it's a lot of fun. And then we get a Murray section that involves picking up and throwing objects, pretty on par for the series. The gyroscope sections felt a little forced in 2013, and that remains true 13 years later. But overall, it's a solid mission that gets you playing as multiple characters, and that's never a bad thing. Sticking with Sly 4, we have Jailbreak up next. While I'm not a big fan of when this series gets away from stealth gameplay, I have to admit that this is a cool idea. This mission sees Tennessee and Carmelita teaming up to rescue the gang in a third-person shooter format. Both characters are marksmen, so switching back and forth between them without breaking up the gameplay style too much was smart. I find myself liking Tennessee's sections more though, because they also involve a little bit of platforming as well. It's overall a good mission, but it doesn't get any higher than this simply because I don't like that Carmelita ends up being flirty with Sly's ancestors.
If it wasn't for this handsome and charming gentleman, I wouldn't even be here.
I get why she could be attracted to them, but I just don't think it was necessary. It's cheap and petty conflict to stir up trouble between Sly and Carmelita when his betrayal is already more than enough to work with. It's not the worst case of it in the game, but the seeds are planted here. Cooper Hangar Defense is an alright mission that's split into 3 parts. A Murray combat section, a mini-game where you use traps, and an RC chopper section. It's funny because, on paper, I like all 3 of those gameplay styles. It's just that I think other missions do a better job of presenting these elements, allowing them to stand on their own. There's things that hold each section back here compared to their counterparts. Murray can't directly hurt Mugshot, the trap minigame isn't as dynamic as it is in Mojo Trap Action, and the RC Chopper feels totally nerfed with only a grapple hook used to launch enemies. It's still an alright mission, but it just feels like each of its 3 gameplay sections aren't as good as they could be. The gameplay of Unexpected Ties isn't all that bad. In fact, it's pretty good. We get a big heaping helping of Sly platforming, with a large part of that not involving one of the game's new costumes. You can't beat the classic gameplay loop, and I love how this job opens. And then, when we get the costume, it really isn't all that bad. It's essentially a mega jump that allows us to leap over big gaps or attack enemies from a distance. It's not the game's best idea, but it certainly isn't awful. So why then is this mission so low? Well, it comes down to Bob. It's not really his fault, but I think they botched a cool idea. Sly's earliest ancestor could have been amazing and a chance for Sanzaru to leave their mark on the series. But instead, they lean too hard into the caveman aesthetic. He speaks in gibberish, which I never like, and they name him Bob of all things. Bob Cooper. It isn't cool or clever, it's just a bad cliche that was already outdated in 2013. For me, it sours the great gameplay experience. Sticking with Thieves in Time, and it's all rolled up, the final mission in Episode 5. This one is surprisingly good for the most part. There's a part where all 3 main characters are used, and the boss fight against Miss Decibel is challenging and fun as well. Plus, it sets up the last mission of the game with the stakes as high as ever when Carmelita is kidnapped. However, it has one fatal flaw: the belly dancing scene. Sly 4 is infamous for making Carmelita, well, let's say overly appealing, taking her redesign in a particular direction that many fans didn't appreciate, myself included. You pair up the grossness with another rhythm segment, and it's a disaster. It's found right at the start of the mission too, so its stink lingers throughout. It's one of the worst moments in Sly 4. Sir Raleigh the Frog's boss fight is up next. He's the second worst boss in Sly 1 for me, but it's not because this is a bad mission. On the contrary, I think it's a lot better than our fight with Miss Ruby.
Bloating to gargantuan size and squashing you like the insignificant bug that you are!
Bring it on.
Raleigh is heinous, but certainly charming with the way he bloats to gargantuan size and attempts to kill us through sheer weight. I remember wondering how the hell Raleigh would have stood a chance against Sly's dad, but the form change kind of explains it. The fight itself is pretty bog standard, forcing the player to learn his timings. Because you have to jump from platform to platform, it's easy to miss out on a chance to hit him, which doesn't feel great. It's a bit trial and error, but it's certainly not the series' worst boss fight. Sticking in Raleigh's world, and we have a cunning disguise. It's another middle-of-the-road level for me. The barrel gimmick is neat and would go on to reprise a role in Sly 2, but I don't really love it compared to some of the game's other ideas. It slows down the pace, and I'm never a big fan of when a game creates challenge by restricting the player's moveset. It's an alright level though because of the environment. Raleigh's library is impressive, and the swiveling bookcase adds a nice twist when trying to find all the clue bottles. Funny enough, this might be the first time ever I realized that the dive ability gets a second upgrade in this game, allowing you to ground pound from above. I don't think I ever knew this was in the game, or if I did, I certainly forgot. This level may not be great, but it's always nice to learn new things about my favorite game series. 3 Sly 1 missions in a row, and it's another boss fight with Last Call. This mission does its best to acknowledge that Sly could not win a one-on-one fight with Mugshot. However, the solution they came up with is sorta dumb. Reflecting the beams of light at Mugshot to melt his guns and harm him is a stretch to say the least. I always struggled with this boss fight as a kid, but it's pretty easy as an adult. You just have to move in rhythm and abuse the jump button. And I always thought it was charming how Mugshot walks using his fists, making the screen shake too. It's a nice detail. It edges out Sir Raleigh's boss fight from a few entries ago because of the iconic banter at the outset.
You know, that Thingus Rackamagookus had a lot of nice pictures, but way too many big words.
So you don't mind just handing it over?
Why? What, are you kidding?
What can I say? Thingus Rackamagookus is hilarious, and Sly's witty comeback always stood out to me as a snapshot of his true character. That alone helps this otherwise lackluster mission climb up the rankings. Neela's secret from Sly 2 comes in next. This is a dramatic improvement over Moonlight Rendezvous because of the narrative impact plus the end result. Watching Sly get duped on subsequent runs is heartbreaking. He's so sure that Neela is on their side. The Master of Charm gets deceived so heavily here. Of course, the chase itself isn't too much to write home about, but I really enjoy the sequence inside the Spice Irrigation Room. When you're scouting the joint during the recon mission, you can't explore the whole thing, but here, you're set free. It's got some cool little nooks and crannies if you explore it, and finding your way back up to the guards is fun. And of course, getting a clockwork part without a whole big operation is always a nice way to wrap up a job. Stone Age Reconnaissance from Thieves in Time is at spot 117. Look, this is a fairly decent recon mission where we just roam around the Ice Age map and grab a few photos. Sly 4 is sometimes at its best when it keeps things simple. There isn't much to it, but it feels like a Sly 2 mission at its finest. Getting all the necessary photos means reaching a few select points, which adds a little platforming to the experience, and that's never a bad thing. It's a shame this hub world's performance runs far worse than the others, but even that minor stuttering doesn't make this a bad job. Sticking with the same game, and it's Lost and Found, another recon mission. I like this one slightly more than Stone Age Reconnaissance because it introduces an interesting idea, tracking through DNA samples. Sly has to grab photos as usual, but he also has to do a bit of platforming to find specific points that Salim al-Kupar came in contact with. You're still mostly doing the same as any other recon mission, but this added flair is appreciated. Lighthouse Break-In from Band of Thieves is at spot 115, and it's one that could be so much higher up the list if they just did more with it. It's a job that involves all three playable characters, but you only get to control Sly throughout its duration, which is a missed opportunity. A fighting section with Murray and a hacking component with Bentley would make this feel like a mini operation, and that's a level archetype I always enjoy. Instead, we just move up and down the lighthouse's interior and exterior a few times and call it a day. That's still fun, don't get me wrong, especially given the unique environment, but it just isn't enough to carry the job higher up the rankings. A Battery of Peril is actually a fun mission, but only because I like to cheese it as much as possible using the paraglider. I could take or leave the Carmelita section where you have to chase after Sly and shoot him to charge the battery. It's a nice surprise role reversal on a first playthrough, but on subsequent runs, it loses its luster. Still, after it's charged, racing back up the mountain and gliding down to the safe house pretty much ensures you win the mission without Carmelita ever being able to catch up. Slipping out of her grasp again feels so great, and that's the reason this mission gets as high as spot 114. We're not switching games for this next entry, it's X Marks the Spot from Sly-tly. I'm torn on this mission because I do love the act of stealing a pirate ship and then going on an adventure to a remote island to dig up buried treasure. I also love the quirkiness of the island, especially the fact that you can use your pirate disguise to fool the gators.
Island is home to some near-sighted...
Avast! Speaketh the storm password.
Kid stuff, here it is.
Jib spar, jib spar.
New blood, eh?
Every time I play this game, I have to get them to ask me for a password at least once since I discovered it a few years back. It just cracks me up. The treasure map is an interesting mechanic too. It's not my favorite, but it doesn't overstay its welcome and feels appropriate for this mission. I also like the scene where LaFouille makes his move. Bentley being brave for Penelope, promising a rescue, goes a long way in their eventual romance. However, this job also introduces the open seas sailing vehicle sections, and I find them to be an absolute drag. The ship combat is decent, but I only want to do it when it's story relevant. Having to zigzag all over the ocean to avoid fights is annoying, and this is where that begins. At slot 112, it's Pretty in Pinker from Sly 4. It combines something I absolutely love with something I cannot stand, so it shouldn't be a surprise to see it average out somewhere near the middle. The Ryoichi section is great, taking advantage of his superior platforming skills while also offering a bit of challenge. It feels like something new since he's the first ancestor you get to play as. I'm not a fan of the auto-fail moments, as you know, but it is what it is. But what really irks me is that this is the first mission with the dreaded gyroscope hack, which are so annoying to fail at. And then of course there's the rhythm game section as Murray, which is always atrocious. It's designed so poorly that it will cut back to the minigame where you're actually playing it as a button prompt goes over the area you need to react in, which is broken. How are you supposed to react that fast? Plus, they put that weird pulse effect on the bar itself, which makes it hard to focus on. Why would they do that? It's just annoying. And it just seems to go on for one cycle longer than it needs to. I hate this part, but at least the beginning of the mission is really strong. Here's another Thieves in Time mission. It's Operation Gold Digger. For Thieves in Time, it's a pretty solid operation. It involves all 5 of the playable characters, which is always a good thing. Murray has to free the van, Carmelita clears a path so that Bentley can hack the train's whistles. Then, Tennessee has to shoot his way through the train to get his gold back, and Sly gets the boss fight against Toothpick. All are good, but each has a minor nuisance. Well, except Bentley, it's a great hacking mission. Murray continues to call himself The Murray every other sentence, which makes it feel like the devs were really heavy-handed with the writing. Carmelita's shock pistol is cool, but without a roll move, she gets hit a lot. Tennessee's section includes a lot of auto-fails, and the boss fight sees us using the jailbird costume, which you know by now really isn't my favorite. At least we get to stick it to Toothpick, who's easily the most annoying villain in the series. Grapple Cam Break-In from Honor Among Thieves appears next, and it's another average mission. I like the idea conceptually of Bentley going on his own stakeout and using his technology and intellect to get the job done. However, the grapple cam in this setup can be a bit tough to use. It's easy to get it lodged in areas that it doesn't belong, and the guards can get stuck on different things in the environment. Still, I like that Bentley and Sly both get a chance to pickpocket in a unique setup, and ending any mission with hacking is never a bad thing. This is a job I'd like to put higher, Mechanical Menace from Sly 4. However, I just can't bring myself to do it because of how Sly acts at the beginning.
Carmelita, what are you doing?
Relax, Ringtail. Just keeping tabs on the Dragon Slayer.
I don't recall you watching
My back on any jobs.
Only when I'm trying to catch you. But I find Galeth charming. He has a good heart, even if he is a headstrong goof.
Then you better get going before
Sir Goof
gets himself captured again.
Seeing Sly in his feels in this sort of way, where he's all jealous and pouty and acting like a baby, is one of the worst portrayals of his character in a game full of iffy moments. I can't stand it or how Carmelita tries to make him jealous by going after Galeth. This is not their relationship dynamics, it's just weird. However, I do really like the dragon boss fight. It's fun but fair, and nothing about it feels like bullshit. The climbing section of Sir Galeth is alright too, certainly a step up from the snooze fest found in Eye in the Sky. Back to Sly 1 now, and we have the gunboat graveyard. This level gets style points for Sir Raleigh's intimidating speech. It's always cool when the villain you're up against relays a message to his guards as you stalk about their turf. The graveyard itself is decent. I love jumping down on this guard from above to take him out. That's always a satisfying feeling. And this little eye thing that tracks you as you creep around the tube always piqued my curiosity. What is this thing? Besides that, it's a standard Sly platforming level, and there's nothing wrong with that. Good enemy placement, testing you as you leap across these platforms, and pretty easy to find clue bottles makes for a run-of-the-mill stage that's pretty fun to go through. We're nearing the halfway point now, and with that we have A Friend in Need at spot 107. This Band of Thieves mission does a great job of cementing how much the events of episode 4 and 5 had on the team. Bentley is genuinely panicked to learn about Murray's capture, while Sly remains cool and calm, convincing the turtle that the big man will be rescued soon. It's a great narrative beat, but the gameplay is also pretty decent. Stalking Carmelita around the map is a little slow, but it picks up when you have to pickpocket her and then escape her chase down sequence. It really does feel like pickpocketing Carmelita is something out of the ordinary, in a good way, as if we're doing something we really shouldn't, but still getting away with it just fine. This is a good mission. Saloon Bug is up next. This mission from Thieves in Time isn't too shabby. It sees Bentley and Sly teaming up to get the job done. First, Bentley has to pour sarsaparilla for all the guards and having most of them pass out from a sugar rush. This minigame is inoffensive, but I don't think it adds much to the experience. However, my favorite part of the job is up next. It's a platforming section where we have to figure out how to navigate this open room in order to reach a ventilation vent to put the RC car in. I wish the cutscene didn't show you the route you have to take, but it's still fun to traverse. And the RC car section is short and sweet. It's a decent little mission. This one could be even higher up on the list, but there's just so many great missions in this series. So at spot 105, I have Rip Off the Ruby from Sly-tly. It's one of those jobs that involves the help of all 3 Cooper gang members, and I absolutely adore that. Sly climbing up to the mission start point, Bentley clearing a way for us, and Murray doing the heavy lifting. I guess the reason it drops down my rankings is because it plays slow while controlling Murray. You kinda lumber around and that's the point, but one thing I love about Sly-tly is how fast its gameplay is most of the time. Still, it's a great mission, and you know what? I would love to learn more about this crime family that buys the ruby from us. The final job before we officially reach the top half of this list belongs to Aerial Assault, and honestly, it is a mission I like doing. I said this earlier, but I like the RC chopper sections, and this one feels more fleshed out than most. I wish the enemy attack patterns changed a bit more frequently, but I love hammering the fire button and blowing them up as quickly as I can. It's also a great warm-up for the boss fight found at the chapter's end. It's one of the better chopper sections across the series, especially given our offensive capabilities. And with that, we're now halfway through the list. If you're enjoying the video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It really goes a long way in helping me out, especially now that YouTube is cutting everyone's impressions in favor of AI slop and shorts. Seriously, if you do anything to help out the channel, I really do appreciate it, so thank you. Anyway, our next job is Beauty and the Beast from Sly-tly. I think this is a massive improvement over Turf War because here we actually get to play out Bentley's plan.
Your mother was a broken down tub of junk with more gentleman callers than the operator.
Baiting Mugshot into a fight is hysterical, and luring Carmelita into the trap as Sly is cunning. And then we get to lead Mugshot all over the map, blasting at him with a shock pistol until he falls. I don't know why, but there's something so satisfying about leading him around like a puppet before finishing him off. I always like to KO him on the plane launch tower. Alright, with that, welcome to B tier. We're starting to get into jobs that I actively enjoy doing, although we have touched on a few of those already. These ones though, they take it up a notch. As I kick off B tier and inch closer to the top 100, I'm going with Freeing the Elephant from Band of Thieves. It's a solid mission overall because it taps into Sly's platforming gameplay quite well. I love sliding around the treetops, seeing this map from a higher vantage point. It is pure Sly Cooper platforming, and that's never a bad thing to build a mission around. I love how the game foreshadows what's to come in episode 4, talking about how Spice irritates the elephant and how Murray would be a menace on that stuff. Overall, it's a cool but simple level that feels like it harkens back to what Sly 1 was all about: platforming. Just barely missing out on a spot in the top 100, we have the Dread Swamp Path from Sly 1. This is a mission that I sometimes love, but I will admit that I also sometimes hate it, depending on how the AI wants to behave. These enemies that split into 2 are my most hated in Sly 1, and can sometimes ruin the flow of this level and a few others in Miss Ruby's lair. Sometimes when they split they damage you, even if you're spamming the attack button, which is annoying because this game has one-hit KOs. And these mosquitoes, yeah, they can be a bit of a pest as well. Sly 1 hitboxes were not the best. However, sometimes the enemies are fine, and in that case, the level is quite fun, especially using the rail slide technique that you just learned from Mugshot's section of the Thievius Raccoonus. And having to navigate the camp at the end remains tense, with guards around every corner as you hunt down those pesky candles. Those up and downs help land this mission right near the middle of my rankings. Into the top 100 now with Spelunking from Honor Among Thieves. This job acts as Murray's true tutorial of the game, fleshing out his combat prowess, throwing mechanic, and getting more use out of the ball form. It's not bad considering it's a mission meant to introduce the player to a character's playstyle. In fact, it's far better off than its counterpart in Sly-tly with Water Pump Destruction. It isn't anything special, but it's an overall solid mission and culminates with a fun encounter, having to use everything you learn to incapacitate this guard wearing the Mask of Dark Earth. Oh, and it's nice to see Murray get confirmation from the guru that he's not mad with his apprentice. On to the double-digit entries, and at number 99, I'm going with the Unseen Foe from Sly 1. Personally, I think it's the perfect representation of what a good mission looks like in Sly's first outing. It isn't exceptional, but it commits to an idea and runs with it. In this instance, it would be having the player use their new invisibility move to navigate the pagodas, avoiding plenty of flashlight guards and laser beams along the way. It's a fairly linear stage, devoid of many offshoots, but I think it works out alright. Constantly shifting from inside to outdoor locations gives the stage a nice sense of scale, and the opening shot frames the level incredibly well. There's just something so nostalgic about these PS2 games. Bug Dimitri's Office is another one of those missions that I simply enjoy doing. Finding ways to eavesdrop on the conversations of the villain is a popular job type in Sly 2, and it's one of my favorites. It's just a cool way of promoting the thief vibes, as if we're controlling everything from the shadows, unbeknownst to our target. This mission also introduces one of my favorite side activities, stealing rare pieces of art to sell later in the safe room for massive stacks of coins. It feels so on brand for the series, I can't believe they did away with it in Sly 3. Also, shout out the janitor rats, gotta be one of the most underrated enemy types in the series. At spot 97, we have Search for the Guru from Sly 3. This serves as a solid introduction to the second episode of the game, with its focus being on providing Sly with a few platforming obstacle courses for him to tackle. In particular, the final sequence is fun to swing, leap, and jump through, and it culminates with a nice ending as Sly comes face to face with the Guru for the first time. This chapter builds up to eventually playing as this character, and it starts with this overall fun but short mission. Copycats from Sly 4 is a really cool idea, and it's executed decently well.
Wow, he's right there! This is gonna be easier than taking pizza from a baby!
I think you mean candy, buddy?
The premise here is that Sly and Murray have to team up on separate paths, advancing further to clear a way for the other to proceed. It's a cool idea, and I would have liked it if we got a few mashups like this in Sly 4, like something similar between Bentley and Murray, or Sly and Carmelita. It would have been cool. Still though, this is a decent mission, although Sly's thief costume is a little wonky to use in this mission. It's very trial and error based, but it doesn't completely rob the fun. Not to mention, Bentley even gets a role at the end when he has to complete a hack to free one of Salim's companions. Operation Turbo Dominant Eagle is certainly one of the series' better final operations, but it's mostly just above average for me. I like how all of the jobs leading up to it contribute to our success, but the gameplay itself is just alright to me. Paragliding to each blimp can be cumbersome if you come up short on an approach, and rowing as Murray is enjoyable, but a little repetitive, at least in this instance. Flying the plane is alright too, but it's not as enjoyable as it is in Ace's semifinals, because here, you just find the Baron and hammer him until he's down. But the boss fight against the Black Baron isn't bad mechanically, although I still have reservations about the plot twist ending. It's okay if you don't think too hard about it, but maybe this crueler side of Penelope is how Sanzaro justified her becoming evil in Sly 4. I don't know, but overall, this is a solid operation. At the very least, I have to give my next entry, Back Alley Heist, a few style points. It's the only level in Sly 1 that commits to presenting as a 2D stage. Of course, it doesn't commit fully to it, but the shift in perspective makes for an interesting level. There's a lot of different alcoves to uncover, although I think it was a real missed opportunity to put something interesting down here where all the junk is. That being said, I love breaking all the heads on the mugshot statues. I do this on every playthrough, and I'm curious if others do the same. It's one of Sly 1's tougher levels, especially in the early game, and it does enough to earn a spot in B tier. On to the next entry, and it's RC Combat Club from Sly 2. This is just an overall fun mission, combining a little Sly Cooper platforming with a decent RC drone section. I don't enjoy controlling the tank as much as I do the chopper, but it's still not bad. Plus, jumping, crawling, and swinging around the sawmill is fun. In particular, I always loved crawling through the saw blades. I always thought that these could hurt you when I was a kid, so I was super careful when I was navigating them. Turns out Sly can't touch them, the game physically won't let you. Still, it conveys the danger really well. Plus, the moose head on Murray has always been funny to me. It looks so ridiculous that you can't help but to crack a smile.
Hey fellas, any of you guys think you can beat the moose? Maybe put a bet on it.
At spot 92, I'm going with Operation Hippodrop from Sly's second outing. It's not one of those operations that reaches for the stars, but it's still solid, especially because it goes off without a hitch. Bentley blows up the bridge using his technology, Sly distracts the crowd with a lovely dance with Carmelita, and Murray saws off and steals the clockwork wings. It's an incredibly hard task on paper, but the gang pulls it off with ease. It's a legacy moment for the Cooper Gang's reputation, and the moment when Carmelita realizes she's been bamboozled is cinema. It's perfect. Such a classic moment.
Tell me, stranger, what's your name?
Why ruin the moment?
Huh? I don't understand.
The wings! What happened to the clockwork wings?
What? How? Who could have... What? Cooper!
It's not an operation that relies on the usual pillars of gameplay, but it still presents so well that you hardly even notice. Dark Caves from Sly 3 is up next, and it's a classic Sly Cooper platforming mission. Moving through the caves, which are absolutely beautiful by the way, not just here but also in Spelunking, is awesome. There's plenty of obstacles to navigate, including a few guards, and getting to run through 2 different mine shafts gives the job some staying power. Honestly, it could reach up higher on the list if not for the ending sequence where you run out of the tunnel with the guards in hot pursuit. It's too easy to die in this sequence as damage often double dips, first getting hit by a guard and then falling into a pit below. That drags it down my list, otherwise it could have been a lot higher up. We're out of the caves now, but the darkness remains in Sly 2's Know Your Enemy. This kickoff mission of Chapter 5 maintains the dark and grim atmosphere of Prague. It's a pretty good recon mission, although I enjoy the work inside the re-education tower far more than the outdoor targets. The outside ones are pretty easy to snipe pictures of from a distance, making them not much of a challenge to record. But inside, things are different. Seeing Carmelita tied up and being hypnotized by the clockwork eyes does a lot to Sly's psyche, and you really start to see how much he cares for her. She's become tied up in a legacy he's trying to destroy. It's good storytelling, and Bentley's reaction to seeing the Mind Shuffler is the cherry on top. It's a mission that sets the tone for what's to come. Next up, we have Operation Thunderbeak from Band of Thieves. There's better operations than this, but there's also worse. This one finds itself right in the middle, despite it being one of the least complicated in the series. Sure, it being the very first one we ever experienced does play a large role in that. All the little jobs building up to it are fun, but you don't get a real sense of how Band of Thieves differs from Sly 1 until you do an operation. It's at that point where everything clicks and you realize, oh, this is what they were building up to the whole time. I love that moment. But like I said, the operation itself is simple. It reinforces the mechanics you learned earlier, like throwing with Murray and pickpocketing as Sly. It gets a few extra bonus points from me though, because I absolutely love the conversation between Sly and Dimitri.
Bro, I think you are a tough cowboy. A man with taste, style, vision, a connoisseur of finer things. Like me. Look, I'm sure that two cats in a bag like us can work something out. Yeah? We smooth. Yeah? Look, see the money. You like the money. You can take all you want. I can't.
No deal. You and the rest of the Claw Gang have to be stopped. Clockwork will never again see the light of day. Just hand over the tail feathers and we can...
What is this with clocks, bro?
The Lounge Lizard is hilariously written, some of the best spoken dialogue in any video game ever. And I love how Sly contrasts the goofiness so well. Straight to the point, fearing Clockwork's possible revival, knowing how disastrous that could be. I'll always love this interaction, and the boss fight is low-key one of the best in the series. Back to where it all started with this next one, Police Headquarters from Sly 1. Our very first introduction to Sly, Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita. It was our initiation into the jump and hit the circle button fandom. It served as a fine tutorial, but more than anything, it tells us a lot about the characters. Sly is calm and cool, Bentley is the planner, and Murray's a lovable friend. What more could you need to know? And then the banter between Sly and Carmelita on the rooftop, outstanding, a fine starting point for a will they won't they romance that spans the original trilogy. It's not a strong level on its own though, and I prefer the more mature versions of the characters in Sly 2, so this one sits pretty near the middle of my rankings. On to the next one, and it's Murray-Sly tag team from Band of Thieves. Any mission that sees multiple members of the Cooper Gang working together is probably going to be viewed favorably in my eyes. This is no exception, although it's not as high as the other engine cooperation missions from Episode 8. That's because Murray's section of this job is sorta boring. Breaking alarms is something we've already done before, and it just isn't super interesting. However, once we head inside and start to tackle Sly's portion, I really like it. The interior of these engine rooms are visually satisfying with all the lasers and moving parts. Having to ninja spire jump in a precise sequence to finish the job is a nice touch. It's a solid job. Back to Sly's third outing for this next one, and it's Jolly Boat of Destruction from Sly-tly. I really enjoyed controlling the raft in the open waters. You can build up some serious speed with it, and dodging incoming cannon fire is enjoyable as a result. This job also has a great difficulty curve, starting off with stationary enemies, then upgrading to moving targets, before having to take down a fully sized cutter. It's a natural elevation as the player gets more comfortable with the controls. It's overall just a really fun mission, which you can't say of a lot of other vehicle jobs in the series. Short Supply from Sly 4 is a pretty good level. It gets you playing as Sly, Galeth, and Murray while throwing in a Bentley hacking segment as well. You work together to destroy the Black Knight's production hubs. That's really what allows this mission to reach this high up because, in truth, none of the three segments are anything remarkable, but they act like bite-sized objectives to complete as you progress through the mission. It does lose some points though because the Bentley hacking segment isn't one of the good ones, it's the crappy gyroscope variant. Up next we have a classic, Old Grizzleface, the best bear job in the entire series.
See that old bear down there? His name is Grizzleface. The guards ignore him because he's blind and practically nerve dead, except for his sense of smell.
This is such a perfect mission for Murray. He's already a great power trip character with the way he chews through enemies, but giving him a pet bear to manipulate takes things to a whole new level. You can move him around the map, have him attack guards, and cause all sorts of chaos as you destroy the 4 oil mains. It temporarily allows the player to flip the script on the guards, watching them run in fear as a bear tracks them down to be destroyed. It's an idea that Sly-tly would improve upon, but more on that much later. For now, let's wrap up this pretty fun mission and move on to our next entry. There's almost nothing wrong with Rugrats from Sly 4. This is Salim's debut mission, and it's a good one. There's a ton of platforming challenges, and they all revolve around his ability to ascend climbing poles in a quick fashion. There's a heavy sense of verticality throughout this job, which I always enjoy. It makes it feel like the world isn't so flat. I also like that they don't really ease you into playing as this ancestor. They throw you some tough challenges right away. It's a nice change of pace for this game. Of course, it gets dragged down at the end by a hacking segment featuring the gyroscope. This one couldn't quite stick the landing after a great dismount. Sticking with Thieves in Time, we have Juggling Act. You know, mechanically I really love this job. The archer costume is one of the best in the game, and it's put to good use here. The platforming obstacle course they designed is fun, and seeing Sly in a circus act feels like a natural fit for a man of his athletic ability. However, the job doesn't come without its downsides that prevent it from being better. Two things really. First, Bentley explains everything the player is supposed to do right away, as if the developers were afraid of someone screwing up or having to figure something out for themselves. It happens a lot in Sly 4. But more importantly, this is where Sly's character really goes off the rails.
Cool. How does this sound for a stage name? The Amazing Cooperone! Huh? Right? It's good.
We're 4 episodes in by this point, and it's clear we aren't going to get that serious side of the character at all in this game, which is a shame. It's like Sanzaru took Sly's funny dialogue from Guard Duty and made it his entire personality for this game. It's a joke and a severe mishandling of this character. So while I really do love the gameplay, this job can't get any higher. A daring rescue from Sly 1 used to feel like one of the game's hardest platforming challenges, but honestly, it ends up being a little too short, just like many of Clockwork's stages. I love the evil layer aesthetic of this stage, but it doesn't contain enough platforming elements to push it higher up the list. When that's the whole point of the stage, to challenge the player's mastery of the main controls, it needs to be longer than just a few minutes. After you've completed this stage once, it feels incredibly easy on repeat runs. Half the challenge is just finding out the correct route to take, and once you know it, it comes off as a breeze. Don't get me wrong, it's a fun level, but I do think the stakes of saving Carmelita, as well as the exchange between Sly and Bentley at the outset, do most of the heavy lifting. If ever there was a mission that earned its spot simply by amplifying your power, Mega Jump Job would be such a mission. Look, there's nothing that special about this job. It's over in just a few minutes, and you don't really do all that much. But damn it if jumping super high isn't amazing. It's a wonderful power-up, and I love that it's unlocked using a cheat code, allowing you to bring it back into other hub worlds as well. It just makes Sly feel incredibly broken, especially paired up with the paraglider. Sly 2's all but over at this point, so giving the player something cool like this certainly feels like a nice way of sending them off right before the story concludes. It's one last power rush before you wrap things up. Back to Sly 1, and we have one of the better missions in Miss Ruby's lair with Descent into Danger.
Oh my god, a green waterfall overflowing with bones and body parts!
This level is one of the most unique ones across the first game. Its pathways are twisting and turning, full of cool enemies like the head-throwing turtle skeletons, and of course, that iconic long rail slide at the job's conclusion. Sliding into a treasure key with style will never not be satisfying. It's a great mission, but it fails to reach higher than spot 79 because it's a right pain in the ass if you're trying to get all the clue bottles. It forces you to go through the first half of the stage at least 3 times to get everything, perhaps more if you aren't precise with your jumps. This repetition hurts the level's overall appeal, especially since each subsequent run back doesn't have any new platforming challenges or enemies to fight. It ends up being one of the most boring missions if you're going for 100%. The first major operation in Thieves in Time isn't a bad one, as altitude sickness comes in at slot 78. While I do enjoy beating up guards as Murray and platforming around as Ryoichi, this mission climbs this high because of the boss fight with El Jefe. The above cloud vistas are gorgeous and still look good today. Meanwhile, the fight itself is one of the hardest in the series, as you have to constantly alternate between regular Sly and his samurai costume. If you make a false move, you'll take damage. It's easy to fail a lot during this fight, but that's what makes it a proper challenge. However, I'd also be lying if I said the Sly 4 gameplay trailer way back in the day didn't play a role in this stage being so high. This mission was heavily featured in it, and I loved it. I remember watching it over and over and over again before the release of Thieves in Time, just eagerly awaiting its release. At number 77, I'm going with Sinking Peril from Sly-1. This is the final major platforming test of the game, forcing you to move through many obstacles under time pressure. It's awesome because there isn't some timer counting down. No, the pressure comes from a natural source, lava. A great incentive to get your ass moving. You're incentivized to cut corners, as going through an obstacle before you're meant to feels incredible and also buys you more time. It feels like Sly shouldn't have enough time to squeeze through some of the obstacles, but he just barely does. It makes you feel like you become a master of the controls, which is great because outside of the final boss, this is the final time the game will ask you to platform during the campaign. Up next, we have I Smell a Rat, the tutorial mission for Thieves in Time. You know, this mission is oddly nostalgic to me. I remember playing it for the first time when I was a freshman in college and being thoroughly impressed. At the time, I was just glad to be playing a new Sly Cooper game, and despite a little bit of awkwardness in the controls, I was enjoying this opening mission. Sly still had his patented sneak moves, Murray had his strength, and Bentley in particular felt awesome to play as, especially with the new upgrades to the hacking minigame. It gave me hope that this game would be awesome, although it unfortunately didn't live up to that hype. If not for the weird story decisions like Sly's Itch to Steal and undoing the incredible ending of Sly-tly for a lame setup, it might be a higher ranking than this. Back-to-back missions from Sly 4 is a rare feat this high on the list, but here we go with Ice Ice Bentley. Look, this is a good mission, but I am biased in favor of it. I love playing as Bentley, and you get to do that for the entire mission, taking advantage of his sleep darts and finding interesting ways to incorporate the Binocucom amongst the other platforming and pickpocketing sections. With that being said, it shows off two of Sly 4's biggest problems, the overly goofy dialogue between the characters and how the missions have autofails.
No way I'm going out as egg salad! I'll never eat an omelet again!
Sly and Bentley do not stop making egg puns in this mission. There's nothing serious about how they act despite their dire circumstances. Sly Cooper is at its best when it juggles grim odds with lighthearted moments, and Sly 4 is always scared to abandon the happy-go-lucky facade. And auto-failing a job because I alert a guard is just stupid. Let me roll with my mistakes, force me to beat them in combat, or die trying. This mission is good enough to overcome these mistakes, but they still annoy nonetheless. It's a small break from Thieves in Time as we come to Operation Reverse Double Cross from Sly-tly. You know, I think this is a pretty good operation, more so for the character work than the actual gameplay mechanics. Don't get me wrong, I like the beginning part where you play as Sly, but smashing things up as Crusher and the sword fight with LaFouille are not my favorite. Instead, I enjoyed this job because it frames Bentley as the perfect love interest for Penelope. The tense emotions of the hostage situation bring them closer together, as Bentley is the one to outsmart LaFouille at his own game, proving his intellect and saving Penelope in the process. She even saves him after he's knocked out of his wheelchair. And I love how, in this moment of impending doom, Bentley tells the Guru to rescue Sly because he can't swim, not to come and save him. It's truly a brotherhood between these guys, and any mission where Bentley gets a win is okay in my book. Back to Thieves in Time now with Breakout, the mission where we save Ryoichi Cooper. You know what? This is a pretty fun stage as it balances Sly Cooper platforming with Sly 4's emphasis on costumes. Pickpocketing guards to get all the necessary pieces is a nice start, and then breaking into the prison is a fun sequence. You're constantly shuffling between normal Sly and Samurai Sly, and it feels about right. And doing all of this, knowing that you're breaking out one of Sly's most famous ancestors, Ryoichi, is the cherry on top. It's a fun mission, but it isn't hard to see the cracks in the characters even this early on, as Sly's bantering is already a bit much. Up next is Spice Room Recon from Sly 2. It's another recon mission, and I'm always down for those. They just do such a great job of informing you of the challenge you're getting yourself into. I also love that, at least here in Sly 2, you get to see how the villain is using the clockwork part for their nefarious plans. Here, Rajan is using half of the heart to super irrigate the spice plants, but after stealing the wings from him, he holds the other half of it for safekeeping. I love that. Plus, the arena you venture through in this mission is so cool, although you can't fully explore it just yet. At number 71, we have another solid pickpocketing mission, Lower the Drawbridge from Sly-tly. I'm a sucker for missions like this, just good old-fashioned robbery. It takes the pickpocketing mechanic introduced in the first episode and builds on it by dropping the targets into the hub world instead of in a confined space. It increases the sense of danger and just ends up being a great mission. Manipulating the guards using the gong is one of my favorite singular moments in the series. So what can I say? This job isn't spectacular, but it's still one I always enjoy playing on each run. Disco Demolitions is such a better tutorial level than Water Pump Destruction. Both missions accomplish the same goal of introducing us to Bentley and Murray's gameplay mechanics respectively, but this one does a far better job of characterizing Bentley.
Fine, I'm just fine.
I've said this in my other Sly videos, and you can probably tell from this video alone, but Bentley's character arc throughout the series is incredible. From stay in the van, to get out in the field, to overcoming disability, and to finding self-confidence and eventually love. It's great stuff. I'll always love Bentley's timid nature at the beginning of this job because it's the jumping off point for the incredible character arc he goes on. His courage started here. Bentley is my favorite character in the series, so I no doubt had to put this job up higher than most. By the way, his sleep darts are sick, one of the best mechanics in the whole series. Finally, a mission that makes the Murray throwing mechanic pretty enjoyable. Hungry Croc sees us doing something that sounds awesome, and it actually ends up being awesome. It's a great idea that's executed well, taking advantage of his core mechanic. There's just enough guards to make it a challenge too, as you have to whittle down their numbers so that you can grab a guard and feed the croc without taking damage from others. It's fun, frantic, and a total power rush given Murray's immense strength. I do wish the ending with the flashlight guard was a little harder to pull off. Maybe they could have put him farther away from the croc, but it's still decent. Overall, this is an enjoyable mission. One of the most pandering missions in the entire series is up next. It's Open Sesame from Thieves in Time. I actually really like this mission for two reasons. First, it's a Sly platforming mission through and through, and second, there's so many references. You venture around the map, platforming up to flawless gems, and then trading them in for the best costume in the game, the thief outfit. It allows you to slow down time, which is so cool, plus they reference the slowed time power-up from the first game.
I wonder if it somehow influenced your ancestor Matthew de la Coupeur's slow motion techniques. Mind-bending! It's Matthew de la Coupeur's perpetual slow motion technique!
Of course, the gems themselves feel like an homage to rip off the ruby from Sly-tly, and the guy working the shop shows only his eyes, just like the bouncer in a starry-eyed encounter. And then, while eavesdropping on La Paradox and Miss Decibel, you get the final nostalgic dump, Sly's Italian accent. In a game where Sly overdoes it with the jokes, this one at least feels acceptable. At slot 67, I'm going with Carmelita's Gunner, the finale of Band of Thieves. This mission was one of the hardest to rank because, while I love how it wraps up the story and the greater Clockwork saga, the gameplay is less than stellar. The turret is as stiff as ever, and the paragliding section sees me failing at least a few times on every run. Sure, the last part with Murray and Bentley is alright, if not simple, but mechanically, this finale doesn't play to the game's strengths. It's a shame. Still though, I love the ending. Sly finally rids his family of Clockwork, but it comes with an extreme cost, the fracturing of his gang. They all sustained physical injuries, but some wounds are more than flesh.
Let's get out of here! She's about to explode! Ah! My glasses!
What? Bentley! I'll save you!
That injury to Bentley and Murray's reaction, man, it gets me every time. It's a fitting ending that wraps up the story while also increasing intrigue for what might happen in Sly-tly. At number 66, we have the first real mission from Sly 1, A Stealthy Approach. The tutorial level is so streamlined that it hardly counts as a mission mechanically. This one though, much better. It's a sign of things to come. Platforming sections, lasers and spotlight traps, enemies that have to be dealt with, and the introduction of another piece of series iconography, the clue bottle. Speaking of those, I always loved how hidden these two bottles are. It's the first level and the developers weren't shy about getting devious with their placement. I can also appreciate how this level includes a lot of areas to use the jump and hit the circle button after the player just learned about it in the tutorial. It really helps you get a feel for it without a lot of platforming pressure or enemies breathing down your neck, and the great atmosphere helps push it further up here in B tier. Crypt Hack from Sly-tly is a good old-fashioned platforming level with the plot twist coming from the playable character. It's Bentley.
Good man, Bentley. Just make sure those traps don't rip you into 100 little turtle pieces.
Why'd you have to say that?
Sly isn't here because hacking is involved, which always grants bonus points when ranking all of these jobs, at least for me. There's 3 of them, and they do a great job of increasing the challenge with each one, crescendoing in a little mini boss fight against this triple turret. Outside of the computer work, it's fun having to move through this obstacle course as Bentley. It's one of the most challenging areas to navigate in the series. It all combines to make a pretty fun job that pushes your skills more than most others. Kinda going hand in hand with I Smell a Rat from a few entries ago, we have Photo Op from Sly 4. This is the game's second mission, and it kept my hope alive for this title. Entering a Sly Cooper hub world that ran on more powerful hardware was a treat. It was bigger, and it was new. Exploring it while doing the classic Sly Cooper photo job made me feel like they were getting things right. The platforming was fun, and we were picking up right where we left off. It's hard not to escape that feeling on subsequent runs, even when you know what's about to happen. That's because this mission is mechanically simple and aligns with the nostalgia from the previous games. It's not a bad mission at all. Next up, we have Flame Fu, a mission that actually moved up my rankings as I worked on this list. Originally, I had this down in the high 70s, but it jumped up when I played through it again. I think it does a great job of characterizing Sly versus other run-of-the-mill thieves. The intro cutscene tells us that him and his gang only steal from other thieves, proving themselves to be the best in the business in the process. The conversation then between Sly and the Panda King makes this clear by showing you it over the course of his levels instead of just telling you.
Why should you care if I bury a few worthless village in snow? You are a thief, just like me.
No, that's only half right. I am a thief from a long line of master thieves, while you're just a frustrated firework artist turned homicidal pyromaniac.
It all comes to a boil in this scene, and you actually get to fight him straight up, unlike so many other bosses in Sly 1. It's great. The Panda King's attacks are perfectly telegraphed too, given the age of the intended audience. It isn't a hard fight, but it carries a lot of weight and does a great job of informing Sly as a character, especially for how he would go on to think and act in Sly 2 and 3. Slot 62 holds our first train robbery of the list, Theft on the Rails from Band of Thieves, although, come to think of it, Operation Gold Digger is technically a train robbery too. Either way, I love all the train robberies in this second game, including this one, but it ranks the lowest for me simply because it lacks the other surprise elements that the other two contain. More on those later, but for now, moving through this Iron Horse as Sly remains a lot of fun. It forces the player to be very precise with their movements, as there's nowhere to run if you screw up. I found this out the hard way on this playthrough after waking up the Moose Guards. But even without the guards, the platforming challenges intermingle perfectly to bring more variety to this already great stage. Back to Honor Among Thieves for this next job, and it's Ace's semi-finals. The airplane is one of the better vehicles across the Sly Cooper series, and getting the chance to go toe-to-toe with 2 other teams with the odds stacked against you is a joy. The plane controls great, and blasting enemies out of the skies is enjoyable. It's not really what you'd expect to be doing in a Sly Cooper mission, but it's still fun nonetheless. The series certainly has much worse vehicle sections, and if we're gonna divert to a vehicle section, at least let them be fun, like this one. Long before episode 4 of Sly 4 goes off the rails, it contains a pretty good mission in Shopping Spree. Not only does this level get you exploring the new map by eavesdropping on guards to learn the locations of the various shops, but it also contains a lot of Sly platforming. I wish the obstacle courses were a little bit tougher, but 3 smaller courses aren't bad either. And there's a nice little addition to this job that comes in the form of a Bentley hack. It's one of those fun versions that builds on the format found in Sly 2 and 3. So overall, it's a great mission, and without the Black Knight bogging it down, it's even better. A rocky start, the debut level of Mugshot's World is up next. I like this level a lot because of how it increases the challenge from anything seen in Raleigh's world. The enemies are tougher to deal with, and the floor lasers combined with the other obstacles makes for a nice gauntlet at the end. It does have arguably the most ridiculous hidden clue bottle in the game though, in my opinion, but I love how it includes this optional section near the start. Sly 1 is very linear, so when a level has a little offshoot like this, I greatly appreciate it. And of course, the cherry on top is that this level contains the very first ninja spire jump in Sly's history. It's arguably his most iconic move, so bonus points for that. Plus, it sets you on another perch to knock out an unsuspecting guard below. Fantastic stuff. After a little time away, it's back to Band of Thieves for Code Capture, one of the series' best uses of recon work and the Binocucom in general.
I need your help getting a handle on the Contessa's encryption algorithm.
I'd love to, pal, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
The banter between Sly and Bentley really summarizes their strengths as characters, and the job itself is a lot of fun to play. That's because it blends 2 great mechanics, picture taking and pickpocketing. Not to mention, finding the correct location to take the picture from takes a little bit of platforming. So you get the 3 P's of Sly Cooper all in one job: platforming, pickpocketing, and picture taking, and that always makes for a great combination. Another entry from Honor Among Thieves is up next. It's Octavio Snap. We haven't seen a lot of missions from this episode yet, and that's for a good reason. It's one of my favorites. Octavio Snap itself is pretty good. The reconnaissance work is actually challenging, although they are very generous with the respawn points if the Don does manage to see you. But the ending is the best part, when Bentley reprograms the Ferris wheel and takes out one of Octavio's henchmen, destroying his tar pump in the process.
Look away if you must. You're about to witness the dark side of electrical engineering. Kill a bunch of poor innocent fish, will he?
It's a solid recon mission, and I always enjoy these. And this time, I even got this weird little glitch on film where Carmelita refuses to use her shock pistol. What can I say? It was funny to watch. Sticking with Sly 3 because up next is Crusher from the Depths. You know I hate the sailing mechanic in this game, but this mission doesn't really involve it. Instead, you get to go toe-to-toe with an absolute monster. I really like the fight between Crusher and the Panda King, although Sly's section is a little weaker if you ask me. Although, I can't believe they didn't do this mission in 3D back in the day. Seems like a great fit for that odd mechanic. Anyway, besides the fun gameplay, one thing I really like about this job is how it brings the Panda King and Sly closer. I mean, they aren't best buddies, but the common foe allows them to continue putting aside their differences and to work together. It's still all business between them, but beating this creature gives them all the fuel they need to see their contract fulfilled. That being to help each other out and then go their separate ways. It's a fun job with some good character beats. At number 55, I'm going with 2 to Tango, the first of 2 missions in Sly 1 where Carmelita rains down hellfire on you. While I do think the later version surpasses this one, 2 to Tango is still its own solid mission. The platforming challenges aren't tough on their own, but with the added pressure of Carmelita shooting on you, it creates a memorable chase sequence. On a first playthrough, it feels like it's impossible to escape her, but the middle portion, where the safe rests, makes for a great spot for the player to catch their breath. And the cherry on top is sending her far away by disconnecting the balloon she's standing on. It gives a plausible reason for how we managed to escape her once more. And at the same time, Sly and Carmelita get so few scenes together in Sly 1 that anytime we get to see these two go toe-to-toe, it's a treat. Up next we have Recon the Ballroom from A Starry-Eyed Encounter. This is arguably one of the best recon missions in the series. It's definitely up there for me. Only one tops it. But if we're talking about the best recon segment in the entire series, rest of the mission objectives be damned, this is probably the best. It does a masterful job of showing what's in store for us as we continue through this game, highlighting other Claw Gang members and reinforcing Carmelita and Neela's roles. They also build up the talk of spice production after being mentioned in passing during the first episode. It's just a great way to kick off Sly-tly's second episode. It sets up everything that comes after while also giving us a crazy hard task to pull off, stealing the Clockwork Wings in a crowded ballroom. A quick turnaround back to Sly 1 brings us to a Perilous Ascent, the first mission in the Panda King stronghold. This is the first game's best example of vertical level design, as ascending up the mountain feels incredible. This shot alone, seeing the area you started in way down below, is fantastic. It gives a great perspective on how far you've already ascended. Using the Panda King's fireworks against him is a nice touch, and I've always been a fan of this garden section at the level's end. There's more guards in this one area than any other location in the game. It feels like a true evolution of what we saw at the end of Miss Ruby's first stage. There's serious tension as you navigate this area. The only thing keeping this stage from being higher is my history of failing to find all the clue bottles on a first run. They aren't even that well hidden, I just always seem to miss one, and it's usually right at the start. Outside of that personal beef, it's a great stage. At spot 52, I'm going with Close to Contessa from Sly 2. This mission takes the structure of Follow Dimitri and just makes it so much better. Stalking isn't enough. Now you have to get up close and personal with plenty of guards backing up the Contessa. This may be the first time I did this job without the alarm clock gadget, and it was an added challenge. Although I'm so familiar with how Sly controls and the enemy AI that it was easy to manipulate them into positions that I needed. Still, it's a really fun mission, and if things do go off the rails, the Contessa racing towards you is heart-pounding. It's a fantastic job, made better by the Jungle Gym level design of Chapter 4. Sticking with the jailbreak episode, we have Big House Brawl sitting on the outskirts of the top 50. What do you say about a mission like this? It gives the player a power fantasy in the middle of the most oppressive chapter atmospherically and mechanically within Sly 2. Defeating 50 guards is such a simple concept for a mission, but it's done so well here. I love the traps around the room you can use to add creativity to the onslaught. It's a display of what Murray brings to the table for the Cooper gang. It's a simple concept executed perfectly.
50! Eat that, you incarcerating suckers!
Cracking into the top 50 now, and I'm going with Leading Rajan from Sly 2. Look, I love this mission. It's one of the few that still manages to challenge me throughout this game. Bentley's greatest power is his sleep darts, and the game uses them in such a clever way here. They make you draw out a map with them, leading Rajan all over the place to pickpocket his blueprints. It's awesome, but it remains challenging because if a guard gets in your way, sleep darting him might lead Rajan right to you, and thus lead to a job failed screen. Therefore, it's up to you to find strategic points to use your darts from, safe spots if you will. It's a great balancing act, and I think it's brilliant, and I wish it was a concept that Sly 2 had used more often throughout its story. We've had a lot of entries from Sly 2 Episode 4 over the last dozen or so missions, and here's another with Operation Trojan Tank. As we move further up the list, we'll see that many of my favorite missions incorporate multiple of my favorite mechanics. That's certainly the case here because we get a helping heaping of Sly platforming and Bentley hacking. Sly gets to climb, ninja spire jump, crawl, and even hook swing throughout. Meanwhile, hacking remains as enjoyable as ever. The only thing that would make it better is if we got a section at the end where we had to beat up a bunch of prison guards as Murray. Still, it's a great mission, and the narrative implications certainly play a role in my opinion. It's the mission that brings the three group members back together. It creates an unbreakable bond in what was already a strong group. It helps put the band in Band of Thieves. We find ourselves back on the rails at slot 48 with Ride the Iron Horse. I find this mission to be a little better than Theft on the Rails for two reasons. First, it's the very first time we get to pull off a train heist in the series, and second, because we do it as Bentley of all characters. This seems like a mission for Sly, yet Bentley is the one we play as. I always found that to be quirky and cool. Moving through the train and using Bentley's sleep darts and bombs to get past guards is fun and a frantic affair. Bonus points will always be awarded to this style of mission because train robberies fit so perfectly into a story about thieves. The Fire Down Below from Sly 1 certainly earns its spot this high up on the list, but I'd be lying if I didn't say the way you enter the stage adds to the appeal. What can I say? It's unique. Anyway, the level itself is great too. Having to run on the barrels to get parts of the level moving always felt engaging to me, a cool idea to center a level around. I didn't do it on this run, but you can even skip a giant chunk of the stage by platforming in a smart way. I learned that while playing the emulated version on PlayStation 5 back in 2024, and for some reason, I always loved smashing up these black rocks. As a kid, it felt like these gave more coins than anything else in the game. The glue bottle placement also stands out. It's all pretty straightforward, so they had to find interesting spots to plunk down bottles, and they did a great job of that. And unlike with high-class heist, you can simply re-enter the level to access the safe easily instead of having to backtrack. Overall, this is a really solid mission. And with that, we reach another new level of prestige. These next few jobs belong in A tier, truly some of my favorite in the series. At slot 46, it's the Talk of Pirates from Honor Among Thieves. I think this job is a lot of fun. I like that tracking down each part of the disguise is different. You have to lead Stone Jake around the map, taking advantage of his monkey problem. Then you have to pickpocket this guard to get his peg leg, and Twitchy Ned you have to run down. All three are simple tasks, but they're all different, which helps them feel fresh. And then it all culminates in one of my favorite dialogues in Sly-tly, where Sly and Black Spot Pete have a swear-off against one another. It's a clever use of the dialogue minigame.
You're a bleating, scurvy-ridden piece of filth.
It's also a nice touch that Black Spot Pete is an old man, as it's a great subversion of our expectations. The true villain of this episode is someone we haven't even met yet. That's a cool touch. Laptop Retrieval is one of the more iconic missions across the series simply because it comes out of nowhere. Over the course of a game and a half, you get used to Bentley breaking down the upcoming jobs, but you get the plot twist here when that breakdown is interrupted and you're forced to improvise. I love that, it's a neat touch, and the job itself is good too. There's some hacking, including a mini-boss you have to beat, there's some slide platforming, and then there's an awesome fight against General Sal. This battle is much more enjoyable than the encounter with the dragon from the episode's end. The dialogue does a great job of framing Sly as a hero despite being a thief, while Sal just comes off as the jerk that he is. This is a wonderful mission that includes great gameplay, but also a surprise twist at the start, which makes it stand out. Sticking with Sly-tly Episode 4, we have Vampiric Demise up next. This Panda King-centered mission is excellent both in the character dynamics, but also the gameplay. I love how Sly, Bentley, and Panda King all act throughout this mission, with the turtle being a middleman between the two, trying to keep the peace and getting the two former rivals to work together to see the job completed.
I don't mind telling you I'm putting my neck on the line here. We're all counting on you.
I will mind your neck.
We're making a pretty good team. This is the last of the fireworks. Put them in the crypt and kaboom! No more hopping vampires.
Yes, this ordinance will suffice.
They're gonna be fangs everywhere!
And then, when the gameplay starts, it's a ton of fun. Nothing like packing your launcher full to the brim with fireworks and blowing up a ton of hopping vampires in one foul swoop. It's unlike anything else in the series. It's like a turret that you can bring anywhere, and that's a joy to play. It's hard not to enjoy what this mission brings both to the story and the gameplay. Hidden Flight roster from Honor Among Thieves lands at 43. This is a job I really enjoy because it has so many awesome elements. There's the nostalgia factor, bringing back Dimitri and Mugshot. There's the introduction to the Black Baron, who gives a memorable speech. And then there's the great platforming section where we ascend the castle before taking control of Bentley and doing a bit of art encryption. In other words, it's a mission that has a lot going on, and I enjoy every single part of it. Sly-tly's third episode is one of my favorite across the series, and this strong start to it is a major reason why. Bentley-Murray team-up from Band of Thieves earns its spot at number 42 because it's another instance where multiple characters are used in the same job. Throw in a bit of Bentley hacking and it makes things even better. In particular, this Bentley hacking job is special because it adds a twist, at least for the Band of Thieves standards. The enemy drones are powered up, but you also get ricocheting projectiles. It's super fun to bob and weave around corners using precise aim to take out your targets at 90-degree angles. And then, once you take control of Murray, you do what he does best. Destroy things, whether they be iron pistons, guards' faces, or robot drones. It's a solid mission that I really like. Up next is Into the Machine from Sly 1, one of the game's strongest platforming levels in my eyes. The entire level is built around the concept of sabotaging Raleigh's weather machine by tracing it back to the core. Doing so involves so many varied platforming challenges, climbing up to the pipe, jumping over the giant furnace doors, avoiding the electrified propellers, and a giant room of death. Even now, having played these games dozens of times, I still clench up a little bit while navigating the electric propellers. I always feel like I'm just barely out of range. And those furnace doors are great too. If you're going for all the clue bottles and mess up once, it's back to the beginning of the stage to try again. I love that layer of pressure in what's otherwise a simple platformer. And then it all culminates with holding onto this ring as it smashes through the machinery, ruining Raleigh's schemes while bringing us closer to our own goal. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like I'm obliged to put A Strange Reunion this high up on the list.
So that was you in the background of all those old pictures in the Thievius Raccoonus. How old are you?
Perfection has no age.
It's the one mission where we get to interact with Clockwork directly, unaffected by other souls. Looking at you, Neela. It's a great interaction given it takes place in Sly 1, but it's always left me wanting more. I would have loved to see a discussion between these two men in the second game, where the tone and atmosphere is more serious and mature. I've always wanted that because, as it is now, the importance of this meetup kind of falls flat owed to the game's focus on gameplay over narrative. As for the gameplay itself, it's not bad. The jetpack sessions are pretty take it or leave it for me, but I love the final sequence. Platforming over to Clockwork and bashing his head in as he spews all sorts of nonsense is exhilarating. I always found it haunting though when he temporarily gains consciousness back and leaves Sly with this haunting message.
You will never be rid of me. Clockwork is superior.
Damn, that always hits hard. That's enough to earn this legendary encounter a spot in my top 40. Next up, it's Run and Bomb from Sly 3. This job is so simple, but I love it. It's crazy what adding a timer can do for Sly platforming. The player has already had 2 games to get accustomed to how this character controls, and it's only been further refined with each entry. So why not add a few more time trial missions? I also love climbing this tower and watching it be destroyed. It feels like a moment where the job would just wrap up right here, but instead it throws a monkey wrench into the operation when Octavio himself shows up. Racing back to the fireworks stand to see who the intruder is provides a moment of genuine tension, and ensuring Bentley's safety makes you feel heroic. It's a nice twist on what's already a fun mission. Cooper for Hire comes in at spot 38, and it's about as good as any Sly 4 mission can hope to be. You get to play as 3 different characters in Bentley, Murray, and Tennessee. Bentley's section sees us following Toothpick before getting to hack a terminal in one of the good mini-games. There's also a Murray turret section that doesn't feel like crap unlike some of its counterparts in Sly 2. But the real win here is getting to play as Tennessee for the first time.
Shit. I'll be in and out quicker than a hyperactive rattlesnake.
Hey guys, this door's kinda heavy.
His sections are third-person shooters, which are brand new for the series. His gun doesn't have a ton of pop in it, but I can't deny that playing as him is a good time. The mechanics are satisfying and don't overstay their welcome, not to mention the rail slide sections are underrated fun. This is a really awesome mission, not just for Thieves in Time, but for the entire series. Boat Hack from Sly-tly finds itself in the upper echelon of jobs. Despite only playing as Bentley, well, I guess technically Murray too, it gives a great impression that both the Hippo and Sly play integral roles in the mission's success. You know by now how I feel about jobs that involve hacking, at least the good version of hacking, and this one gives us a heaping portion to chew on. These are some of the toughest hacks in Sly-tly, especially the final one, as there's tons of bomb layers chasing after you. Not to mention firing the hook up towards Sly. I don't know why, it's simple, but I always enjoyed it here when I hate it in Operation Canada games. I guess the lack of time pressure makes its trial and error nature a little bit more tolerable. Overall, it's a really solid job. It sees the gang all out in the field at once and involves one of my favorite mechanics. We've covered a lot of vehicle missions already. In fact, there's only one left, Canal Chase from Sly-tly. That makes this my favorite vehicle mission in the entire series, and for good reason. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but it also provides an empowering experience that makes you feel in full control. It's fast, it's frantic, and you don't feel like the characters are nerfed. Shooting the Blue Vipers is fun as you have to alternate between laying down fire on them while also dodging all the obstacles in your path, all while juggling the cooldown meter so that it doesn't overheat. It's just really solid, and the cherry on top is learning more about where the relationship between Sly and Carmelita is at the beginning of this third game. Up next is Operation Choo Choo from Sly-tly. Hey, that rhymes. We've already been over the other two train robberies, and so the reason this one ranks higher is simply because of the increased stakes. This is an operation after all, everyone's involved in making sure that everything goes right. It is a relatively short level, but it's super memorable to me, combining the fun of Sly platforming with an RC Chopper boss fight. I love spamming the attack button to try to whittle down Neela's health as much as possible. And the Sly sections are great too. Sneaking past Jean Bisson and climbing underneath the train are peak moments. And the dialogue is an added bonus.
Come in, little friends. Neela's got me pinned down. Any chance of air support?
I love how unfazed Sly and Bentley are from Neela's threats. Using her words as pet names for each other throughout the episode, how even Murray gets a great line too.
Never thought I'd see the day when his stomach got turned into a tool of evil.
Believe it or not, with this next mission, we will now have covered all of the jobs in Thieves in Time. So that means that Sushi House Startup is my favorite job in that whole game. That's because it takes the promise of Sly 4 and handles it better than any other job. That of course being a Sly Cooper game where you get to play as the ancestors. Ryoichi is one of, if not the most iconic ancestor of the bunch, and playing as him is a real treat. I love that his gameplay is a reflection of Sly's, but he's able to do more with the Ninja Spire jump than Sly could ever dream of. Many of the other ancestors either don't control like Sly does, or their special moves feel incredibly half-baked. This mission doesn't fall into that trap. It's a solid Sly Cooper platforming mission, elevated by the fact that you're playing as the best ancestor, or at least my favorite. It's simple but effective stuff that doesn't overextend itself or perform character assassination like so many other jobs in this game do. And for that reason, it's my favorite in Thieves in Time. Two to Tango is a great mission, but Duel by the Dragon easily edges it out, shooting much higher up my list than its counterpart. The dialogue between Sly and Carmelita is so much more poignant here, with the raccoon calling out the cop for ignoring the greater threat. And from there, a deadly dance begins. Carmelita pursues you much more aggressively than she did the first time around, as there's only a few moments for you to catch your breath. And the dragon statue serves as the stage's set piece, and it's gorgeous. Its presence is felt throughout the whole level. And then at the end, having you hurriedly use the fireworks to escape from her is great. It's a little weird because it feels like a fall ought to kill Carmelita, but she's tough, I'm sure she'll just brush it off. In all seriousness, I love this mission. I think it does a great job of elevating the challenge over its counterpart by demanding more precise platforming from the player while also navigating her barrage. It's a standout level of Sly 1. At slot 32, we have Police HQ from Honor Among Thieves. This is the first real job of the game, and it's a damn good one. It includes some classic Sly platforming, but also introduces some new mechanics that will be used throughout the adventure, namely lockpicking and the dialogue options, both of which feel right at home in this series. Returning characters like Carmelita and Dimitri are awesome inclusions too, but the real meat of the mission is reuniting with Murray and learning more about where he stands after the events of Sly 2. I think the fracturing of the group at the end of Band of Thieves was an interesting choice, and bringing the group back together here feels like a natural first step. The interaction between Sly and Murray is great too. I've said this before, but I wish it didn't wrap up so early.
It's a long and awesome story. You got any gum?
I wish we got to hear what Murray told Sly about life since leaving the gang, but oh well, it's still an awesome mission. Just outside of the top 30, we have Sly Bentley Conspire from Sly 2. Out of all the Episode 8 missions, this one's my second favorite. It kicks off with a strong mechanic, with Sly having to navigate this tricky hub world to pickpocket 5 guards. That alone is enough for me to rank a mission highly, but what kicks it up to this level is Bentley's section. Honest to God, having to shoot out the light bulbs using the sleep darts is one of the most clever things in the entire series. It's a shame that they didn't find more ways to incorporate this concept into Sly 2 and 3, but oh well. I just find it such a clever way of presenting the mechanic in a new format. The inventiveness of that is why this mission earns a high ranking. Did you know Cabin Crimes from Sly 2 was the first Sly Cooper mission I ever played? I was at a friend's house, found the game in a pile, and he was excited to show it off to me. We booted it up, and this was where he was at in the game. The sneakiness required to beat this mission clicked with me immediately. I love the character design, the gameplay, and the world itself. And as soon as I got home, I begged my mom to get me this game. It was awesome. The job itself is a good one too. I love overhearing Bassan's conversations and then breaking into the cabins, documenting the info we need, and finishing it up with a mountain climb. It's great stuff, but I can't deny that it being the first job I ever played is a big reason for why it's this high up in my rankings. It'll always have a special place in my heart. Oh, we got a real good entry here at number 29. It's Flaming Temple of Flame from Sly 1. It doesn't get much better than this in Sly's first outing. This stage always felt massive to me as a kid, as it continues to do so now. The temple itself is huge, and I love how wrapping your way around it brings you a handful of new platforming challenges to overcome. Not to mention, they weave in plenty of fights against guards, creating a great balance between platforming and combat. And then, once you make your way inside, you come face to face with the training monkeys. They're so focused that they don't even react to you. I don't know if you did this, but I always enjoyed jumping up and hitting a few of them. It took time, but getting them all was so satisfying. Also, this is the ultimate level to test your clue bottle hunting skills in. They are hidden so well in this stage that finding them all without a guide feels immensely satisfying. Flaming Temple of Flame comes pretty late in your Sly 1 run, and it feels like a great test of everything you've learned so far. It used to be my favorite mission in the game, but in recent years, a few have gone on to top it. Operation High Road from Sly 2 is up next, and it's one of the better final missions in the entire series. It's one of the high points of the game, especially after enduring the grim atmosphere of the Contessa's 2 hub worlds. Gameplay-wise, it isn't my favorite. There's a turret section, but it's a little less clunky. However, there's also a tank portion which I always dread. It was the bane of my existence as a kid. And chasing after Neela is just whatever to me. However, there are gameplay elements that I enjoy too, like hacking as Bentley, and of course, the boss fight against the Contessa. It's one of the better boss battles in the series, given it's a 2-parter where she powers up in the second half. Still, what I love most about this job is the action and stakes.
I have no interest in your narrow interpretation of morality. I'm above all that. Above good and evil.
And you think I'd give the eye to someone that's above morality?
Enough talk, insect.
There's very few operations that have this much going on at once. In fact, this might be the most dramatic one.
Merciful Hades! Sly, Can you read me? Carmelita shot out the guidance system, and the blip's descending at a decidedly unsafe rate. I'm going down! Down! Down!
The entire gang gets separated and are forced to use their own individual strengths to overcome tough positions. A lot goes wrong in this operation, but the fact that the gang is able to overcome it all and still come out on top shows why they're the best thieves around. Windmill Firewall is an excellent pure Bentley hacking mission. It's the first time we get to hack in Sly-tly, and it's a lot of fun. It's a noticeable improvement over Sly-2's, at least in-game feel. That's something I didn't really notice until playing all the games back to back to back to back for this project. It glides like butter, but it's tougher because the enemies fire at you at a more frequent rate. It's a nice improvement over Sly-2. I also love the courage and confidence Bentley displays in this level. You can tell he feels right at home hacking these terminals. And the ending is great too. Discovering the windmill throwing stars is an unexpected but welcome twist, setting up a memorable moment in the stage's operation. Continuing with more Honor Among Thieves, we have King of Fire at slot 26. This mission has so much going on and it all combines to make an excellent job. First of all, there's the tension felt about Sly teaming up with the former enemy, the Panda King. But before that confrontation, there's a giant gameplay section where we get to play as every character, which is sick. Murray bounces upward using the ball form, Penelope uses her RC car, Sly uses ninja spire jumps to reach the top, Bentley lights up the pinwheels, and the Guru mind controls a guard to reach the Panda King. And then you get the best moment of the whole job, the flashback sequence where Sly and the Panda King come face to face within the dwellings of his deepest regrets.
I hate you, Sly Cooper. You've ruined me. Ruined the Panda King.
And I've hated you, but that doesn't make any of this real. Years have passed, and we both changed. Come out of this trance. Let's meet each other as we are today, and let go of who we were when this fight occurred.
It's awesome to relive this moment, and it shows growth from both men that what gets them to overcome this moment isn't violence, it's talking it out. I think it was such a clever idea, executed very well, making this one of the best jobs in the entire series. If I'm being honest, Operation Tarbigone is probably the best overall operation in the series. One ranks higher on this list for personal reasons, but when examining what an operation can do, both mechanically and narratively, this one is probably at the top. It effortlessly encapsulates many of the new mechanics that were introduced, the disguise, the double button security switch, and the canal sequence. Not to mention, it interjects a lot of cool scenarios in back-to-back succession, breaking into the opera house, blowing up the tar vacuum, Bentley's hilariously bad singing, and of course, the Octavio boss fight as Murray. These are all strong gameplay sections that are enjoyable on their own and combine masterfully to create a strong operation. If it had more Sly platforming involved, it could be a lot higher up, but even going further than the great gameplay is the narrative implications, as it's the job that gets Murray back on the team. Honor Among Thieves is a game about recruiting new members, but getting an OG back, man, that just hits different. The moment where Murray rejoins the team, forsaking his oath of peace to protect his friends, is this character's best moment in the entire series.
Right to be scared, hippo. Your wheelchair friend should have been so smart.
Murray! Help!
That does it! I'll floss my teeth with your spine! The Murray returns!
I love it so much. It all combines to create a remarkable end of episode mission, one that I always enjoy replaying. Arguably, one of Sly 1's most iconic missions is up to bat with Straight to the Top. Mugshot's neon green signs have been hanging over you since you arrived at this location, and now you get up close and personal with them. It's a cool way of foreshadowing levels if you ask me. Climbing on them feels like an act of rebellion against the mob boss. But what really drives this mission into my top 25 would be its open-endedness. Sure, it has a linear path you have to follow, but unlike so many other missions in Sly 1, it doesn't feel like a hallway. There's little nooks and crannies for you to get into, seeing what you can uncover. The cars dangling over the edge must be jumped on to get clue bottles. Before they fall, you have to escape. It's cool. Meanwhile, the hidden clue bottles behind this hook are a neat touch. And then of course, there's mugshots callout, which I always enjoy. This level also has a great sense of balance. It feels like you spend equal time climbing upwards as you do moving horizontally. All of this combines to help this level earn a spot in my top 3 of all of Sly 1. Our last mission in A tier is one that's near and dear to me. Breaking and Entering is the mission that confirms Sly 2 will be a much different experience than Sly 1, and for the better, I may add. It ushers in the new era of stealth gameplay for the series, teaching you more circle button moves, how to kill stealth enemies, and introducing one of my favorite mechanics to the entire series, recon photos. There's just something so incredibly sneaky about breaking into a place undetected and grabbing important photos of the target without them being any the wiser. Of course, you get down and dirty too with a good old-fashioned fight with Murray by your side. I love what they did with this character in the second outing. Despite it being another tutorial level, the atmosphere, the mood, and the action elevate it into something special. It's just one of those levels that I always look at with a great fondness. With that, we're entering S tier. The following jobs are in the upper echelon of the series, standing tall over many others. And starting us off, we have Train Hack from Sly 2. Alongside of pickpocketing, Sly 2 introduced arguably the greatest minigame in the series, hacking. Actually, you know what? I'll just call it the greatest. I don't even think you can argue anything else edges it out. I love this style of hacking in the Sly Cooper series, and this is where it all began. A desperate turtle trying to free his friends in the only way he knows how, through technology. We've seen other hacking related jobs on this list already, but this one is special because it's where it all began. That, along with the incredibly high stakes for the Cooper Gang's fate, allows this mission to rise super high up on the list. Its great mechanics and storytelling harmonized into a single job. At slot 21, I'm going with Giant Wolf Massacre from Sly 3. This mission is a wonderful blending of roles, seeing you as both predator and prey. The opening dialogue always gets a laugh out of me. Sly and Bentley psych each other out often, but this is one of the best.
Alright, that sounds okay. You can hang back and shoot him at a distance.
Well, given the weight of the darts, I'll need to sneak up behind him and take a shot within a few meters.
Meters?
Quit trying to freak me out and put the guru on the monocucomm.
From there, we have to get super close to the wolf and land shots using our sleep darts. And as soon as they connect, the ferocious beast comes tearing after us, claws and teeth in tow. It's legitimately intimidating as this feral creature rains down on you. But then, you get to flip the script, taking control of the wolf's massive power and using it to mow down a bunch of the Black Baron's guards. You go from being afraid of this thing to inflicting violence with its power at your fingertips. It's a great contrast that makes this mission elite. Into the top 20 now with Blimp HQ Recon from Band of Thieves. It is the final recon mission of the game, and it sends this archetype off with a bang. Sure, the picture-taking segment is pretty short, but it finds a way to weave in some pickpocketing and platforming as well. Of course, that alone wouldn't be enough to see this job reach this high up. What helps this mission earn this spot is the cutscene that follows after you complete it. Observant players have probably noticed the villain spice operation being sprinkled into every chapter, but it's here where we see the bigger picture. Arpeggio's grand plan is revealed, and I always love seeing how each member of the Claw Gang contributed to his agenda. Clockla is really stupid, I get that, but I love Arpeggio. I wish he got more screen time before being killed off. That desire to learn more about him endures and helps propel this mission into my top 20. Coming up now is the Cooper Vault, Sly 3's tutorial mission. This is another legendary stage because it does a masterful job of scene dressing for the adventure that's about to unfold. They throw so many things at you very quickly to maximize your interest. You have a bunch of new characters helping you out, but their identities are kept a mystery. You have the heinous introduction of Dr. M, then there's the implications of the job you're on, accessing the Cooper Vault and getting to take a deep dive into the family lineage.
Cooper! You must be Sly Cooper, the new keeper of the cane. Oh, how I long for this.
And it all ends with that iconic action sequence, escaping Dr. M once, only to be captured again. Sly giving him his cane to save Bentley's life, cementing how the events of Sly 1 and 2 brought the gang closer together. It always hits hard. This is great stuff. It is an absolutely jam-packed job and sets up a lot of questions that the game will answer over the course of your journey. Some might be surprised to see Boardroom Brawl up this high, but think about it for a second. It's one of those missions that feels like a mini operation. All the gang members show you what they bring to the table. Sly is the ultimate field man, knifing his way in, handling guards, and platforming obstacles to open up access for the rest of the gang. Murray helps pulverize many guards to keep the turtle safe, and Bentley uses his brains to hack into Rajan's computer network to gain access to the electronic winch for the heist. The only way this mission could be better is if it included a hacking section after you beat the guards, effectively ensuring that the player controls all three characters during this one job. Still, seeing Bentley so elated after successfully finishing things up is great. It's clear being out here alongside of Sly and Murray gives him a lot more confidence. It's such a simple mission on paper, but I think it effortlessly conveys what each member brings to the table and how they succeed by working together. This is a great stage. Our next entry is similar to Boardroom Brawl in the sense that it's an early game mission where 2 or more characters work together. It's Into the Depths from Sly-tly. I give this one a slight edge simply because it adds more elements on top of the previous stage. First of all, Sly and Bentley are both equally involved, in on the job 100% from the very start. Then there's the segment where you eavesdrop on Octavio and learn more about his operation. Exposing us to the villains and learning more about them is one of my favorite parts of these games because it is so rare. And finally, my favorite part of the job, the ending. This is what makes it great. Unlike in Boardroom Brawl, where you get to power through enemies as the Murray, you instead play as a weaker Sly. Sure, it's not hard mechanically, given they only send one enemy out at a time, plus the fire pits, but still, it is a great example of storytelling through gameplay. You feel Murray's absence. Sly shouldn't have to run back and forth between the doors, your backup is missing, and you feel it, helping to tie this episode's main narrative even tighter. I love that. Without a doubt, one of my favorite missions in all of Sly 2 is Steal a Tuxedo. Technically, Ballroom Dance Party is its own mission, but I'm lumping it in with this one since that's just a cutscene. Anyway, Steal a Tuxedo is excellent. It drops you off in Rajan's guest house and says, figure it out. You need 5 pieces of a tuxedo to complete the mission, and each room contains 1 piece. The platforming this job asks you to do feels integral in building this game's thieving gameplay. Sneaking above in the rafters, climbing on chandeliers, and doing anything you can to avoid flashlight guards. On top of that, each room acts like a miniature puzzle. They all have guards, but with flashlight variants being the bigger threat, you have to find ways to stealth kill them before tackling the smaller grunts for maximum efficiency. So really, you get the best of both worlds, stealth and combat all set up within a well-designed level. The series is at its best with missions like this. Stand Your Ground from Sly-tly is about as good as you can get for a mission that doesn't involve Sly himself. The character work in this job is impeccable, some of my favorite in the entire series.
Feel like you're playing second fiddle to Sly? Like he treats us as sidekicks?
No way! Sly's cool! We're all in this together!
Sure, we're all here, but are we equal? Who went into the vault? Sly. By himself.
Watch out!
Dr. M's goons? They must have forced the door after we opened the lock.
Think of it this way, Bentley. If it were you in that vault and Sly and I were out here, what would he do?
Stop these thugs and protect his friend.
The conversations between Bentley, Murray, and Dr. M are fantastic, especially how Dr. M refuses to engage with Murray, only locking horns with Bentley as he views him as an equal.
Time to get in a screaming match with a caveman like yourself.
Then lock horns with me. Think you'll find I'm a better match.
You get a great back and forth between the two men who view their similar circumstances in completely different ways. I always feel Bentley's confidence come through when he retorts that brotherhood isn't a tool to keep him and Murray in line, instead it's what keeps the gang together. And if you've played all the games, you know that's true. The gang has taken L's before, but the connection they share is what keeps them as a band of thieves. And Bentley is inspired to feel this way because of the pep talk Murray gives him right before the arrival of Dr. M's goons. It's great stuff, and the gameplay reflects this as well. Murray gets a final gauntlet to KO as many enemies as Dr. M can send, and Bentley uses his technology to outsmart the Mad Monkey. The whole mission is constructed wonderfully. These next two missions go hand in hand, but I often think about them as a combination equating to a mini operation of its own. But for the purposes of making a ranking list, I'm putting Frame Team Belgium at spot 14. Look, I love this mission. Murray's comedy routine is great. I always make sure to listen to each of them before selecting the correct choice, just because the awkwardness between him and the Belgian is too rich. I do rank this mission slightly lower than its counterpart though, simply because while I like the Guru section, it can be a bit finicky at times. Although there's a strong end of the mission with Sly tracking down the van and making the final swap. There's just something so cool about pitting our two enemies against each other without them being any the wiser. And with that in mind, Frame Team Iceland comes in at lucky 13. It's exactly the same idea as the previous mission. You get to play as multiple characters who are working together to get a job done. You only control 2 characters instead of all 4, but the reason this one gets the better spot is simply because I like the idea of breaking into Team Iceland's hotel room, navigating its corridors without them having any idea because they're passed out after a crazy night of partying. One false move and the lot of them would be awakened. That tension is palpable and it makes Sly's acrobatics all the more impressive. The sewer section is fun too, adding a bit of vehicle platforming alongside of the normal Sly platforming. And finally, giving Murray's ball form one more thing to do doesn't hurt either. He's also hysterical in this job as well. His lines crack me up.
Murray is, and always has been, finesse.
Honestly, both Frame Team Iceland and Frame Team Belgium are like entries 13A and 13B on this list. I love them both, especially as a package deal. I debated swapping Final Legacy and Stand Your Ground in my rankings, but I think Sly-tly's final mission deserves this higher spot. I love how it starts with consistency from Dr. M. He has few words for Sly. He views him as inferior, and therefore the fight begins immediately without much dialogue. The battle itself is good, with Sly using the move he just learned from his father to overcome Dr. M. Sly embraces his legacy while still choosing to be his own man, while Dr. M loses his sanity trying to define his own legacy. It's a great clash representing the overall theme of the game well. And then of course, the ending. Carmelita showing up and dealing the final blow to Dr. M is amazing, and it sets up a perfect finale with Sly choosing to step away from his family's legacy to pursue his own dreams. He respects his ancestors, but realizes there's more to life, like love. He doesn't lose the love he has for his family or friends, but he chooses the ultimate form of love a person can have, a romantic bond with a kindred spirit. It's a great allegory for life, and it would have been a perfect spot to wrap up the series had it not been for the wart that is Thieves in Time. This was one of the hardest decisions while making this list, what to just barely keep out of the top 10. For me, it feels like theater pickpocketing is the odd man out, but just barely. I absolutely love this mission because of what it stands for mechanically. Introducing pickpocketing into the series was such a clever and well executed idea that plays to the character's strengths. In the first game, we're told that Sly is a thief, but here, we genuinely feel it come through in the mechanics, and pickpocketing is at the core of creating that sensation. It is a simple gameplay inclusion that helps support the thieving atmosphere. There's nothing more satisfying than sneaking up on a guard, robbing them blind, and finishing them off before finding the next target. I also feel like the setup of this mission is expertly crafted. You get a pretty open space to familiarize yourself with this new move, but it also feels like a jungle gym. Finding your way up to some of the targets is just as much fun as stealing from them. And then of course you get Dimitri radioing in, warning his crew of your presence, and yet you still get the job done, with them being none the wiser. I also feel like one of Sly-tly's most underrated elements is when Bentley radios in to talk to you outside of the Binocucom conversations. When he does this, the gameplay isn't interrupted, but you still get that feeling that you're working as a team to pull off a tough job. And that's important in a game that's literally called Band of Thieves. This is a fantastic mission that just barely, and I mean barely, missed out on being in the top 10. Man, we're getting pretty close now. With that last entry complete, we reached the top 10. My 10 favorite jobs in all of Sly Cooper. Buckle up, because at the 10 spot, we have Mojo Trap Action from Sly 2. I imagine that if we ran a poll, this mission would find its way into a lot of people's top 5s or top 10s because it is so unique and a ton of fun to play. First of all, we get a rare Binocucom conversation between Bentley and Murray. You just don't see those all that often. It feels like finding a shiny Pokemon. But the real treat comes in the gameplay, using the Crypt's traps to smash up any guards that come close. What's brilliant about it though is that each trap's cooldown window is so tight. If you don't play perfectly, you get these frantic moments where Bentley, the weakest character by far, has to jump and dodge attacks using only his bombs and bowcaster to keep enemies at bay. It creates tension in the gameplay, especially because Bentley's attacks do less damage than the other two characters. You just feel so alive if the guards manage to break through your defenses. You have to act on the fly. And what I love most is that each of the 4 rooms has completely different traps. The first one is a bit boring, but after that, you get these challenge rooms where half of the fun is just figuring out the creative ways that you can dispose of enemies. It's exhilarating, especially knowing that taking any damage will lead to a game over. It keeps you on your toes, and it's just a lot of fun to play. It's a mission that I don't think many of you will be surprised to see this high in my rankings, unlike some of the other upcoming entries.
Alright, the deed is done. With a Mojo Collector at full capacity, I should be able to blow the Clockwork Eyes off that Mind Shuffler. This is going to be great!
At number 9, we have the Lair of the Beast from Sly 1. Come on, you knew this level had to be pretty high up there, right? Sly 1 is certainly a different kind of game compared to its sequels, but when one of its missions is hitting, it's hitting, and this is one such level. Obviously, the snake set piece makes this stage iconic. The build-up is special, with Sly and Bentley wondering about what the gate is meant to keep locked up, and then Bentley spotting something moving just underneath the water's surface. It's terrifying. Often the scariest beasts are the ones we can't see. And then, when you round the corner and see the giant beast emerge from the cave, smashing up everything in its path with only the goal of eating you, it's amazing. It's easily the biggest enemy in the game, and instinct alone tells you that all you can do is run. It's like one of those boulder missions from the Crash Bandicoot series. All you can do is try to get out of the way. It's a shocking moment that serves as one of the game's and series' best moments. And I will add, I think the build up to the snake encounter is also done well mechanically. There's tons of enemies lined up to knock out in a row, giving the player a bit of a power rush. You feel in charge for just a few seconds, especially if you manage to navigate the platforms with ease. When you're in the flow state, moving through this level's first half feels as smooth as butter, and then wham, just when you get comfortable, the snake humbles you instantly. My only knock against this level is that when going after all the clue bottles, it's a pain to get the ones in the snake's path without dying. That's my only grudge against it. But even that little flaw is enough to prevent this stage from being my most enjoyed in Sly 1. Still, the Lair of the Beast is an iconic mission and has always been one of my personal favorites. Oh, and seeing the snake come back later to help us smash further into Miss Ruby's lair is incredible. At number 8, I'm putting down A Shadow from the Past, the tutorial level of Sly 2.
Breaker Alpha Foxtrot, this is the Wizard. Do you read me, Sitting Duck?
This is Peking Duck. I hear you, Blizzard.
No, Sly, I'm the Wizard, and you're Sitting Duck.
I read you loud and clear, Lizard.
No, I'm... Forget it, you're not taking this seriously.
Look, this is my favorite game of all time, and any chance I get to play through it once more feels like a treat. And when that time comes, this is the first level I get to play. I'll admit, it's not the gameplay that really excites me about this mission, it's how great a job it does of informing the player of so much. If you're new to the series, you get a solid introduction to Sly, Bentley, Murray, Carmelita, and Neela with a mysterious nature surrounding Clockwork. But if you've played the first game before this, you're treated even better. It's one thing after another that immediately feels like a huge upgrade over the previous game. The Banaki-Com looks great, the characters seem more mature, the stakes seem higher, Murray is completely different, Bentley is out in the field with you, and you feel like you've joined up with the gang mid-heist. It doesn't feel like a platforming level anymore, it feels like you're in the thick of it with the crew. The slow reveal that you're there to steal back the Clockwork parts so that they can be destroyed is amazing. Anyone who played the first game knows what kind of threat he posed. Of course, we beat him last time, so it's compelling to see what form he's in now. But of course, we're not shown that as we reach the room where they're supposed to be. They've already been stolen by the Claw Gang, and before we can even process this new information, it's on to a daring escape, one that easily surpasses the escape sequence in Sly 1's opener. Then you get that legendary cutscene that I can speak line for line, verbatim. It's been imprinted into my brain. In just one short mission, the game has done a remarkable job of setting the stakes, introducing a new criminal organization, bringing us back into the gang, and setting up what sounds like a massive adventure to undergo. It excels as an introduction to what this game sought to do, evolve the first game into something truly special. And the best part is, when you finish this mission, your new journey is only just getting started. At number 7, we have Operation Wet Tiger from Band of Thieves. Look, I'm going to be honest with you and say, I don't think the gameplay of this mission is particularly strong, at least some of it. It brings back the stiff turret controls, and you already know how much I dislike them. At the same time, walking the Cherry Bomb 500 into position feels so slow in comparison to Sly's usual movement speed. Those elements drag. But everything relating to gameplay with Murray, yeah, that's peak. Fighting guards, opening heavy doors, and of course the battle with Rajan himself. Despite a huge plot twist unfolding, the game takes time to give the hippo a moment of his own to shine in.
The Murray will renew your fear!
Who's the Murray? All I see is a fat, pathetic weakling!
I might be big and not as smart as the other guys, but one thing I'm not is weak!
I love the courage he shows here, especially knowing how much of a wimp he was in Sly 1. But the real reason this job is this high is because of the storytelling twist that blew my mind as a kid. As I mentioned earlier, the first time I ever played a Sly Cooper game was at a friend's house during a sleepover when I was 11 years old. I fell in love with the storytelling, the characters, the world, and the gameplay as we stayed up late playing Band of Thieves. I knew I needed the game for myself. I got it just a few short weeks later, and that first playthrough was mesmerizing. Just pure video game fun during my formative years. But it was this mission that made me realize how cool stories in games could be. I was so used to PlayStation 1 games like Spyro and Crash, as well as early Pokemon games that didn't have much story going on. So seeing a game like this blew my mind, especially this job right here with the twist Neela provides. It sounds cheesy to say this as an adult, but as a kid, I never saw it coming. I figured if Sly trusted her, so did I, so seeing her betray us like that left a lasting impact on me. I can vividly remember the moment despite it being over 20 years ago now. That's insane. Every time I revisit this game, I relish playing this mission for its lasting impact. After all, it was one of those moments where I knew I'd be playing video games for a very long time to come, chasing that feeling as often as possible. For that reason, Operation Wet Tiger earns a top spot in my rankings. At number 6, it's Dynamic Duo from Honor Among Thieves. I've said this many times already throughout my Sly videos, but Bentley is my favorite character. I think he goes on such a great arc across all 4 games, especially in Sly 2 and 3. In the second game, he learns to overcome his own fears. He breaks free of the shelter he's accustomed to by getting out in the field. And even though it ultimately cost him his ability to walk, you can tell that throughout the first few chapters of Sly 3 that he has a lot more self-confidence in himself. But that doesn't mean he lives without other negative emotions. He has hang-ups about his disability and how others perceive him, especially girls. But throughout the course of this episode, he learns to overcome that. This mission is where the seeds of that growth start to shine, as in Penelope's biggest moment of need, he's the one that saves her. I think the combination of that heroic act paired up with the fact that he opens up to her about his struggles is what gets Penelope to start viewing him more favorably than Sly.
Sly's really taught you a lot.
Sly? We're a team. In case you haven't noticed, I'm the brains of the operation. He's just the field man.
Just the field man? Sounds like you're jealous.
Well, yeah, I wish I wasn't in this chair. I wish I could run on tight ropes and jump on flagpoles and all that stuff, but I can't.
She begins to realize that she has more in common with Bentley, and that he can be just as brave as Sly, perhaps even more so, given his limitations. This is reflected brilliantly in the gameplay, with Bentley being the one to locate the back entrance to LaFoui's hideout, but also in taking out all the guards. I think it's the only time in the series that the game forces Bentley into a combat trial like this, devoid of tools or traps to help him. He's completely on his own. And despite being the weakest character mechanically, he's able to overcome it. I like using the power-up technologies in this fight. I think it better aligns with his character, but the end result is the same. A win for this great character. This mission focuses on Bentley and his growth, and by combining good writing with thoughtful game objectives, it's portrayed wonderfully. I absolutely love this job, and if it didn't rely on the RC car and grapple cam, it could have made it into the top 5. Alright y'all, we're on some real god tier stuff now. With this next entry, we find ourselves in my top 5 favorite missions in all of Sly Cooper. Right now, I want you to pause the video, go down to the comments, and let me know if you can name any of the jobs still remaining. I expect you'll know a few iconic ones, because, there are a few ones we're missing so far, but can you get all 5? Let me know, and no cheating. Alright, you back now? Great, because here we go. Let's add our final entry from Sly 1 to the list. At number 5, we have Boneyard Casino, my favorite job in the entirety of the first game. Look, it has everything you want from a Sly Cooper mission, and no section of the level feels like wasted space. It starts strong with cutting the power to the casino, putting the night watch on alert.
Nice job getting in, but look out for those guards. Mugshot's got those machine gun-toting dogs hunting like a pack.
You immediately feel their presence in the next room as these hound dogs hunt you in a pack, easily capable of wiping you out if you alert one. But your reward for getting past them is my favorite thing to smash up in this game, the slot machines that reward so many coins. From there, you wind down further into the casino, smashing up a few more guards from above. You know by now this is one of my favorite things to do in the first Sly game, and this single mission awards you many opportunities to do so. From there, you climb onto the lights above, looking over your prey and feeling so stealthy in the process. And then of course, there's the giant hook machine. Has anyone ever knowingly skipped out on hooking onto it and looting the massive pile of coins? The answer is no. It's extremely satisfying to jump onto the pool of coins and gather them all instantly. That sound effect is so satisfying. And then, after that, you come up to the roulette wheel section, which brilliantly increases the challenge with each set. They start simple, but then incorporate floor lasers, mounted lasers, and spin the opposite direction to try to trip you up. It's great. And then it all culminates in one of the game's best set pieces, the giant roulette wheel. Jumping against its flow to unlock the treasure key is so satisfying. If you know me, you know I love a good trip to the casino, and this level just combines that, already one of my favorite things, with my favorite video game franchise. The guard placement is on point, the atmosphere is incredible, and you earn so many coins while moving through the stage. It's a masterpiece and easily my favorite in Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. At entry number 4, I'm going with Guard Duty from Sly-tly. I think more than any other job in the series, this one captures the light-hearted and cartoonish nature of the art style and the characters. Sure, Sly has always had high stakes and serious moments, but a comic book feel was instrumental in designing this series. This job genuinely makes me experience that feeling the most while showing us a great dynamic between Sly and Bentley. And it all starts with a cool new mechanic, the disguise. Taking advantage of costumes feels extremely on brand, and using it to trick guards into doing what we want and letting us move around undetected is a perfect inclusion. The password system isn't hard, but it does make you act fast or else you'll get discovered. And not to mention, I love that this job sees you playing as Sly and Bentley in equal parts. As you know by now, it's one of my favorite things to do in a Sly Cooper mission, get me playing as multiple characters in creative and fun ways. But what really elevates this level to these lofty heights would be the dialogue. The banter between Sly and Bentley regarding the pasta sauce is one of the most iconic moments in the entire franchise.
You know, maybe there's a good Italian restaurant around here.
Enough with the sauce! Keep your focus, we're on a job here! Thugs everywhere, death around every corner!
You're right. We got one more coffee house to hit, then we're done.
Yes, now you're talking sense!
And then we eat.
Bentley's a calculated dude, always considering the threats around him, laser focused on the job at hand. Meanwhile, thieving comes so naturally to Sly that he's able to let his mind drift a little bit, even so much as to start thinking with his stomach. The conflict it creates between the two is hysterical, not to mention the other humorous elements like the shot taking at Tony the Killer Bee and Sly's infamous Italian accent. It was so bad they even had to tread it back out in Thieves of Time. A reference like that signals how strong the moment was in the first place. Guard Duty is an exceptional mission that captures the more cavalier and relaxed side of the series. Top 3 now, and sitting pretty here at number 3 is Ancestor's Gauntlet from Honor Among Thieves. What a special level this was, especially in a pre-Thieves in Time world. For years, this was as much information as we got on Sly's ancestors and the larger Cooper lineage. Sure, we got snippets in Thievius Raccoonus, but this felt like an entirely different beast. It was living history that we were experiencing in the moment. It remains just as great even after the release of Thieves in Time, in part because that game did some of the ancestors dirty, but also because this is just a fantastic mission. The lore dumps go crazy, learning more about Slayton Common, Henrietta One-Eyed Cooper, Thaddeus Winslow Cooper, Tennessee, Ryoichi, and many more is super interesting.
Henrietta One-Eyed Cooper sailed the seas and stole from pirates. Guess I really take after her.
They give you just a little information to get an idea of how these characters must have lived, but leave plenty of room for your interpretation. You can imagine what kind of adventures they got into during their prime. And of course, going hand in hand with these fantastic revelations is how each ancestor also designed a specific part of the gauntlet with their contributions to the Thievius Raccoonus at play. You can see it throughout many of the sections, but the most noticeable to me has always been Ryoichi's and Tennessee's. And that's what makes this level special, the combination of the history along with the great Sly platforming. It's the ultimate test. Of course, it isn't too hard since most of it comes down to, jumping and hitting the circle button, but still, I find myself messing up a few times when completing this level, but I don't even care because it is such a joy to play through. It's an homage to the series roots and to Sly's family roots, while also touching on the legacy theme that is at the core of this third game. And for all of those reasons, it earns a spot in my top 3. You'd have to be a pretty hardcore Sly Cooper fan to make it this far in the rankings. I'm sure most of you know that one iconic job is missing from this list so far, but do you know the other mission that I haven't gone over yet? I would be really impressed if you do, because I doubt many would put it as their second favorite job within the entire franchise, but hear me out. My runner-up for best job in the Sly Cooper series is stealing voices from Sly 2 Episode 5. I absolutely adore this mission for a multitude of reasons, but the main reason is because it so effortlessly captures the greatest feeling that this gameplay can give you, feeling like a true sneaky-ass thief. It uses all of Sly's main mechanics in one single mission. You have to platform around the most vertical map in the game, which is a treat considering Sly's control scheme is buttery smooth and super responsive. I love Bentley, he's my favorite character, but when it comes to actually playing as a character, Sly takes the cake. His ability to escape tough situations is unparalleled. Then, when you reach your destination, there's a pickpocketing challenge that awaits you, as the guards are arranged in interesting setups that force you to be quick on your feet to avoid detection. And then, once you have the keys, you have to do what every thief does best: steal. It's funny how many missions in the series don't really see the gang actually stealing something. That's not the case here, as you take the Contessa's wiretap and voice modulator, all so that Bentley can disguise himself as Neela during the operation. They even throw in a little bit of combat, which is great, as Sly isn't overpowered like Murray. It actually takes a little dodging to get out of combat successfully as Sly. This mission is like a microcosm of why I love this gameplay so much. The platforming, the pickpocketing, the thievery, and how it all fits into a grander plan. It is one step towards our operation, but it's a vital one. I love the structure of Sly 2, how many jobs are integral to pulling off the operation successfully, and I think this one does it better than any other in the entire series. It is my favorite job to just play, a perfect encapsulation of Sly Cooper gameplay. So, what then could possibly top it, and why? Well, at this point, you won't be surprised to see that Lemon Rage from Sly-tly is my favorite mission in the entire series. When I reflect on my top 5, there's things that each of them does better than any other mission. Boneyard Casino is the best Sly 1 platforming, Guard Duty is a great portrayal of the series' lighthearted comic book nature, Ancestor's Gauntlet capitalizes on the rich lore of the Cooper clan, and Stealing Voices is my favorite pure gameplay in the series. So why is Lemon Rage ahead of them all? Well, my absolute favorite thing about the Sly Cooper series is the characters: Sly, Bentley, and Murray. And I don't think any other job in the series better captures the spirit of these characters and the bond they share than what we see in Lemon Rage.
Boys, look tough and get angry. It's time to intimidate the locals.
I'm not sure I can do it. How do you guys get angry?
Find the match deep inside yourself. Light it, and let the fire burn up your guts and boil your blood!
Yeah, I pretty much do the same thing. Look, our goal is to drive away these miners, and we'll do whatever it takes.
The opening cutscene is brilliant, with Sly and Murray doing their best to get Bentley fired up to put on a tough guy act. Then, when you waltz in, you get a hilarious banter between the gang and the dingoes, only to find yourself in a lemonade chugging contest, a totally random idea that lands well. Murray pounds down his drink, while Sly chugs it normally, and Bentley struggles to get it down. Bentley's sugar-fueled burp and declaration of their victory is equally as funny, and then, out of nowhere, a good old-fashioned barroom brawl. The gang works together to just beat the snot out of a bunch of guards as the player gets to shuffle between the characters. It's a truly epic scene, watching your fellow members running around frantically putting fist on face, and it all culminates with a decent boss fight too. Admittedly, this is the weakest part of the mission, and it does get a little repetitive, but I think it does a great job of capturing the teamwork spirit as all three members work together to overcome the hyped up guard. In an episode that features the weakest villain of the entire series, it was brilliant to include a mission like this, one that shows how close the members of the Cooper gang are, while also giving the player an experience that's unlike anything else in the entire franchise. And for all of those reasons, it is my absolute favorite mission in Sly Cooper. It's the characters that make this series special, and this one shows them off in my personal favorite way. Thanks for watching. Well, that wraps up this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the whole thing. Again, I want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you are, I want to thank you for being one of 3,000 people who have. I hope this was a worthwhile video celebrating the growth of the channel. I know many people discovered me through the Sly videos, so hopefully this was a satisfying video for y'all. If you want to see more Sly Cooper content, I'm happy to oblige. I was thinking when we hit 3,500 subs, I'd make a video ranking all the hub worlds from worst to best. I have a few more ideas like that, so if you want to see those, hit that subscribe button. Before you go though, like I said earlier, I would love to hear what your top 5 favorite and least favorite levels are in all of Sly Cooper. Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm especially interested to see what people think the worst jobs are, to see if they differ from mine. As for what's next for the channel, it's on to the next big project, a long look at Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon to wrap up that trilogy of videos. I might also do a few short reviews on some new games I've been playing, but time will tell. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel further, you can sign up to become a channel member for just 99 cents a month, or leave a donation using a super thanks. I also have a Buy Me a Coffee page that's linked in the pinned comment and description. If you choose to leave anything extra, I sincerely thank you. If you're looking for another video of mine to watch that's kind of more on a modern game, I'd recommend checking out my 3-hour retrospective on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing for more, follow me on Twitter at NopNapNarp, donate if you want to, and as always, have a nice day, and take care.